the latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In West Yorkshire, the A653 is closed in both directions along Hunslet Lane in Leeds for an investigation. In the West Midlands, the A41 is closed each way along Warwick Road at Tyseley in Birmingham. After a fire, buses replaced trains between Cardiff Central and Caerphilly and between Cardiff Bay and Pontypridd because of emergency engineering works, and train services are suspended between Severn Beach and Bristol Temple Meads because of a points failure. College Green in Bristol is closed off Anchor Road because of an accident, and in West Sussex, the A286 is closed between Singleton and Cocking for an investigation.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Well, there's a very important edit going on. No, you continue with that. Don't let that.
I've just clicked that.
Just a picture of the new Mrs. Costello. Well, you're not a new Mrs. Costello. You're not. You're Miss. What do you call it?
I'm Mrs. Costello.
Are you? Even though you were always Costello.
Yeah. Oh. But now I'm just a Mrs.
Right, Mrs.
Now, well, just Mrs.
Putting a picture of Mrs. on the Instagram there, just to let people know about her good fortune. That she's got herself married, which is good, because there's always a danger it mightn't happen. And anyway.
And this is only part one. Still got the big one to come in the summer.
A second marriage.
Second wedding. Second wedding.
But have I spelt it wrong on that?
No, you spelled it right now.
Right, OK, so it's all OK.
All OK. We're good to go now.
Check on Instagram, and there we've got our wedding pictures saying we're on now until 9:30 this morning.
Do stay with us. Still to come, we're going to be going through the papers with Dawn Newsroom and Chris Akabusi. Look at them there. Morning, you two. Chat in a second.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 6:38. Let's take a look at some of the newspaper front pages on your Easter Monday.
Daily Telegraph, first of all, leading with the fallout from the gender ruling. Number 10 says, we won't stop pro-trans plotters, whatever that means. We won't stop pro-trans plotters.
Yes.
Well.
The Guardian leads with a story on how British cancer patients are being denied life-saving drugs and trials of treatments are being affected due to extra costs brought on by Brexit.
Front page of the Mail leads with Keir Starmer must break his silence on trans judgment. He's saying nothing yet. The Time leads with the UK dramatically increasing its ability to produce explosives, so it no longer needs to rely on America and France.
And the Daily Star has a photo of Daniel Craig as James Bond sitting on a park bench as part of a story on how Chinese spies are allegedly bugging Westminster Park benches and pubs to pick up secrets.
So
the
is that...
spy who bugged me is there.
Is that a true story or not?
Yes.
It is it?
Oh. Yeah, well, according to the papers, yeah.
According to the Daily Star.
According to the Daily Star, it must be right then.
And the Sun.
What are they using Daniel Craig for?
Well, I mean, because he's James Bond. So he's James Bond. So it's just highlighting the reality that what we've seen in TV. Fact is stranger than fiction. So basically, around Westminster, the Red Lion pub. Interestingly enough, I've got a Red Lion pub where I live, so now I won't look at that the same again. But the Red Lion pub is a notorious place where Chinese like to bug, as are the park benches in St James's Park, and the public are being warned to be careful because the Chinese and the Russians, apparently they're getting onto the act as well, are bugging the places where the people that work in the corridors of power frequent in their breaks and their evenings and lunchtime.
I don't know, Chris, really how you guard against this. I mean, if they want to bug you, they want to listen to you, I would imagine they can do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think you can. I mean, I think that we've got China in so much of our systems when it comes to the airways and barways. I mean, all telephones and... all
literally every phone is made in China, or components made in China. Yeah.
And I suspect that 99% of what they get is irrelevant, but it is the 1% that they get that actually is beneficial to them and their political system and economic system. So while it is a little bit light-hearted, there is a serious undertone that our significant members of polity are being listened to by when they have lunch on the park bench.
And apparently it's not just China. Spies from Russia and Iran also feared to be...
Exactly, they're jumping in on the act. But I suspect that you go to certain places in China and Iran and Russia, we've got our agents doing exactly the same too. So I guess it's a quid pro quo.
OK. A lot being said there. Nothing being said by Keir Starmer on the trans ruling, Dawn. Front page of the Daily Mail.
Yeah, 5 days on after that landmark Supreme Court decision that defining what a woman is and that trans women are actually biologically men. A man that prides himself on being a lawyer, he mentions it a lot, doesn't he, has made no comment on what is one of the most important legal decisions, although it shouldn't be, for women for decades, centuries, potentially. So it is ridiculous. We had the story yesterday about a few Labour ministers plotting to have words about this and maybe try and overturn the Supreme Court decision. We don't know yet, but we need guidance from Sir Keir Starmer. I mean, what's going to happen here? We saw the protests over the weekend, which resulted in vandalism and violence in many cases.
But what guidance do we need from a politician over a court ruling.
How does this work in principle? I mean, while I wholly support what the Supreme Court, said and decided, how does it work on the ground?
Yeah.
I mean, sort of, there must be many big companies, not least the NHS, where we have nurses currently in legal dispute with the NHS over sharing a changing room with a transgender person. How does it work in principle? As the Prime Minister and as a lawyer, he should be coming out and saying something, issuing some guidance.
Difficult for Sir Keir Starmer, though, and he will know. He's flip-flopped on this issue for 5 years.
Well, 99.9% of us have penises, according to Keir Starmer.
So how is he going to show leadership on an issue that he hasn't even wrapped his head around for 5 years?
Well, this is the problem, and I think that's why he's keeping
And that's why he's
quiet.
choosing to stay
because
silent.
he doesn't know which way to jump with it, because...
But I would have thought it's relatively easy for him in this, because I agree. I mean, I wouldn't want to be a politician and someone asking me what is a female, what is a male, or whatever it is, because you sure as heck you'll get something wrong. But if he's got a statement from the court which says this is what a woman is, this is what a man is, then surely that's it, done and dusted.
Of course it is.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I've got a sister, I've got a mum, I've got daughters, and they're women. I've got a son, I've got a dad, and he's a bloke. I mean, you can get into all the minutiae and the water, but that's it, simple. The court have made a ruling. What they say, that's what I believe. I mean, you don't need to go any further than that.
But you believed it beforehand. I think 99.9%, to use Keir's statistic, of people in this country know exactly what a man is and what a woman is.
Yeah.
The fact that a High Court had to make a decision and tell me what I've known I am for 60 years.
What the issue has done, isn't it? It's people who may have the physicality of one sex or the other, but they believe all their instincts, all their feelings tell them they are something else.
You can believe and dress and live how you want, but your rights do not trump the rights of women and girls.
OK, that's what Dawn has to say. Please express your feelings on this one, and the guys will be back with more of what's in the papers right after this short break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. We'll see plenty of sunshine across the Mediterranean over the next few days, but also plenty of showers, some of those on the heavy side. Certainly on Tuesday, a few showers across the Canaries and Madeira, some more persistent spells of rain across parts of Spain, and then we head into a mixture of sunshine and scattered locally heavy, even thundery showers across central and eastern parts of the Med. As for the rest of the week, well, western spots will tend to brighten up, certainly some warm sunshine developing here, but plenty of showers continue further east.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, how fierce is the competition to become Lord Sugar's next business partner? Well, our final guest today has been in the throes of that competition.
Goodness me, yes, Liam Snellen is taking part in the current series of The Apprentice, and he worked as an electrician for 10 years, and now he's turning his hand to making comfortable yet fashionable workwear. So there you go.
Well, I just want to ask what it's like to be a contestant on The Apprentice, having been a fan of the show for years prior. Is it a bit weird?
Yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't say it's weird. I feel like you can manifest anything in life, you know, and over 10 years ago I said that I wanted to be on the show with no real business at the time and not knowing how I was going to do it. But as I said, I manifested it, and I'm here and on the show.
You manifested it? How did you manifest it then? Go on.
Well, you just need to vision that something has already happened, you know, you just haven't attained it yet, so you just need to attain the frequency to achieve that thing, and that's obviously what I've done, and it's my time.
Liam, are you still on the show?
I am still on the show.
How far did you make it?
So, well, you have to wait and see. You have to wait and see. Obviously,
could be the winner.
Yeah, could be. So we had a little bit of banter about a hot sauce. I was licking a plate, which was a bit embarrassing. So we was doing an advertisement for our hot sauce brand, and we didn't actually have the bottle, so we needed to sort of think on our feet and make an advert without having the product.
How long are you in the boardroom? Obviously, it has to be sliced down to an hour, but you must be in there for a long time, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So obviously, you're in there a lot longer than what it shows. You know, it's such a small part of the show when really you're in there for like up to a couple of hours. So it's a really intense period. Like, they definitely go into all of the task and the good things and the bad things that happened, and then obviously the key highlights get shown to the public.
The People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
One of the stories making the news today is that we apparently as a country are going to lessen our dependency on buying weapons and buying munitions from the USA. Dawn and Chris are here to discuss their views, what they think of this one. As an ex-military man, what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I was alarmed. It's in the Times front page, and the BAE Systems UK defence company is also looking to build 3 new sites to add resilience to the project in case one site comes under attack. So first thing, you know, wow, you know, they really are thinking that we could be attacked. But the most important thing for me in this is the unreliability and the lack of trust in Mr. Trump. There's something called a trust equation: reliability, intimacy, self-interest. Mr. Trump exudes everything that is untrustworthy. Everything that he does is self-interested. Make America great again. America first. The intimacy, 1 minute he says one thing, next thing he does another thing. And so this is the thing for me, is that the global community is now having to react against the leader of the West, defined leader of the West, in a space where you don't trust a word he says. You don't know if he's for you or against you. You do understand he puts his team first.
Well, it's blackmail. It's blackmail most of the time with him to get what he wants.
Absolutely.
But how can we afford to buy all those munitions?
Well, I don't
make all those munitions?
Well, yeah, it's about making them. And, well, it may be the beginning of our industrial base coming back again. Yeah. We're manufacturing, investment, and that might be how we really do re-kick our economy, by actually beginning at home, working at home, starting our engineering at home.
Yeah.
And that can't be a bad thing.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, it is what Trump, to be fair to the man, is doing in America. He's putting America and Americans first. I mean, half of America don't agree with what he's doing. The other half seem to love him. Just got back from America, and it's very interesting, the difference when you're in a state like Arizona and Nevada, out in the backwoods, as opposed to the cities like in California. The difference in attitude to Trump's behaviour is quite astonishing. But, I mean, he is putting Americans first, and you do wish that our government would just occasionally do that with us. I mean, the way our government are treating British farmers, for example. Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, put us first.
Yeah.
You know,
but in order to trust him,
here.
You know, okay, if he's going to do that, then in everything clearly down the line, we're putting Americans first. This is the way they're operating. Then I can rely on decision making. I can understand. Okay, in this instance, he's more likely to fall on this line because he's putting America first, and this is how it works. Great. Then all of a sudden, I can begin to trust my negotiators with you because I understand how you operate.
Yeah, but Eamonn's right. I mean, he does blackmail people. It's like, well, I'm going to do A, B and C unless you give me something.
And he gets what he wants most of the time. Dawn, we're not getting as much wine as we used to take and consume.
You talk for yourself,
How about saying
I'm doing my bit.
You're OK.
Now, this is a story in the Daily Mail today that sales of wine have dropped to a 60-year low amid price rises and health concerns. Last year, we saw less plonk bought than at any other time since the 1960s. And this is across the world as well, apart from from Italy, which is, a sales increase last year, thanks to sales of Prosecco.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're drinking more Prosecco, much less champagne. Amen. Don't look at me like that. I am doing my bit, honestly. But because champagne is so expensive, we're drinking less champagne, we're drinking less cheaper wine, but more expensive wine. And this is mainly because, you know, it is expensive, and the younger generations aren't drinking as much as some of us older generations do. Why are you looking at me
Yeah,
like
a lot of them are teetotal, aren't they?
Yeah.
But something you said that actually is quite material to me is that we're drinking less of the cheaper wine and more expensive wine.
More quality.
So I'm wondering whether actually our palate has been experienced to this, but refined. Yeah. That actually we are spending money on quality, not quantity.
Are you a wine drinker, Chris?
Oh, I love my red. You know, the Malbec.
See, I've never indulged. I could never sit down with a glass of wine and go,
Really?
Oh, I mean, in the summer. So
I love a nice glass of bread.
Yeah, absolutely. Or in the summer, sunshine. White wine goes down like lemonade. Yeah. Nice, crisp, white wine, sun is shining, looking over my garden. Oh, before I know it, half bottle's gone. I can basically go detox, son.
No, rosé's like water.
Half a bottle.
Rosé with an ice cube.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gorgeous. Can't
there
beat
you
it.
are. What's your tipple? Let us know. Dawn and Chris will be back in about 40 minutes' time. We look forward to that.
Now, apparently today is a little bit of a washout, isn't it, for our bank holiday Monday, but it is set to get warmer. Marco Patenga's got all of the details for you on your Easter bank holiday Monday.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see outbreaks of rain working their way northeastwards across the UK as we go through the day. Some brighter skies developing towards the south and west, but that will spark off some heavy, locally even thundery showers. So we'll start Monday with some brightness towards the far north and east of the UK, but notice this band of rain sitting across some southern and western spots. That will gradually push its way northeastwards into many areas as we go through the day. Notice skies start to brighten towards the south and west, but here we could see a few heavy, potentially thundery showers starting to break out, with drier conditions moving in across the far southwest later. In the sunshine, temperatures not doing too badly, up to 16, locally 17 Celsius, which is a few degrees above the seasonal average. So to end the day then on Monday, we'll still hold on to some bright weather towards the far north-east of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country a rather cloudy end of the day with some outbreaks of showery rain. Across Northern Ireland it's a brighter picture, but here a scattering of locally heavy, even thundery showers is possible, and certainly a mix of sunshine and showers as we head into North Wales and Midlands and the south-east of England, with the driest conditions, the brightest conditions to end the afternoon across South Wales and the south-west of England. That band of rain will continue to move north and northeastwards across the UK as we go into the overnight period, sitting across the northeast of Scotland into the early hours of Tuesday. Elsewhere, it's a much drier picture, plenty of clear weather around, and because of the clear skies and fairly light winds, it will turn quite chilly by Tuesday morning. In fact, we could see a frost in some rural spots by Tuesday itself. As for Tuesday, well, rain continues to affect the far northeast of Scotland on and off through the day. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshines on the cards after that chilly start. One or two showers breaking out, and there's some more persistent rain starting to move in across the far west of the UK as we head into the second stage of the afternoon. Temperatures are still doing quite well in the sunshine. In the afternoon, we'll peak at around 16 or 17 Celsius. 17 in the southeast is 63 in Fahrenheit, and again, a few degrees above the seasonal average. That's pretty much it. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Expect delays on the A1 southbound between the junctions with the M62 and the A639 near Wakefield due to congestion. Another scene of congestion is on the M1 southbound exit slip at junction 23 in Leicestershire, with a delay of about 10 minutes. Both directions of the A4060 are affected by an incident between Pentrabach and the A4102 junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Pressure on the Prime Minister to break his silence over the Supreme Court's trans ruling.
It comes as Labour MPs are accused of plotting to circumvent the court's decision.
Well, that comes as the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper lashes out at weekend protesters who defaced feminist monuments in Westminster.
Trump-proofing our armed forces, the defence industry, to ramp up domestic explosive and weapons manufacturing, and fears over unreliability.
Brexit betrayal. The Prime Minister is accused of caving into pressure from the EU. As it's emerged, he's poised to sign away sovereign fishing waters in exchange for a defence deal.
What do you think of that one? A crisis in NHS corridor care as thousands of patients are forced to wait more than 24 hours for a hospital bed.
It's Easter Monday today, marking the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
So traffic congestion during the holiday is expected right across large parts of the country. The RAC warns that today could be the busiest in 3 years.
And if you're coming back from a getaway, find out which airport has been named the worst for flight delays.
Today is National Tea Drinking Day, so you can raise a brew and a biscuit to the nation's favourite hot drink.
Hello, good morning. We've got a band of rain moving its way north and eastwards across the UK as we go through the day today, giving way to brighter skies towards the south and west, but that will also spark off some heavy and thundery showers. I'll have all the details later.
Very good to see you. Your company is very welcome. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
See that tea drinking situation?
Yes.
I'm surprised because everybody I know drinks coffee.
Oh, well, they're missing out.
Yeah, sure they are.
You need to be open to both in your life. I have coffee in the morning. I have to because of the job that we do. And then 12 noon hits and you move on to your tea. Because tea's like a cuddle. It's like a really comforting drink. I couldn't be without my tea, honestly.
Yeah, OK.
What about you? You like your tea?
No.
Yeah, you do. You have a tea here in the morning.
I don't. I may occasionally have a tea, and I can only have tea if I'm eating something with it.
That's so true. You do only have it when you're eating something.
It's quite an Irish thing.
That is
people
so
say,
true.
Oh, I could murder a brew. I couldn't murder a brew. No, I could never drink tea on its own.
So you only like it with your breakfast?
No, with a biscuit or a sandwich or toast or something.
Oh, that's quite nice.
It has to be, yes, they can't have it on its own.
I can't be without it, and I can't sit on the sofa without a cup of tea as well.
So here we are, Easter, and this is from Alice, who's emailed us this morning. I just thought this was a nice story to relay to a lot of you. Maybe you're religious, maybe you're not religious, maybe you've thought about going. Alice, good morning to you, Alice. Alice says, thank you to GB News showing the daily messages about Lent. It encouraged me to go to church yesterday.
Oh.
It was the first time since I was a little girl that I've been to Sunday Mass. My dad was really proud, bless him, because he goes every week. He introduced me to all his little friends that he speaks so highly of. A Pakistani family, a Nigerian family, a Chinese family, and all his other friends. It felt like multiculturalism at its best. I must say, I really enjoyed it in church. Everyone was so friendly, saying good morning to each other and happy Easter. It was really refreshing. There were children and young families, but as I looked around, I thought the majority of people are elderly. And when they've gone, who will actually go to church? Which I found really sad. That's an interesting point. But we had a minister on this morning who was saying that church attendances
up
in Christian churches are on the up.
Yeah,
it's a huge amount.
It's the Bible Society, I think, as 2 million people have started going to church in the last 6 years. And Alice, you are now one of them. And it is young people who are going. So that's a really good sign, isn't it?
Right. Well, pressure is mounting on the Prime Minister to break his silence on the Supreme Court's landmark gender ruling.
Well, it comes as Labour MPs are accused of plotting to circumvent the judgment in leaked WhatsApp messages.
Now, over the weekend, trans rights activists and trade unions gathered for what they called an emergency demonstration, where multiple statues were defaced, including that of a suffragette, Millicent Fawcett.
Well, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has slammed the vandalism as disgraceful, but Sir Keir Starmer is yet to comment.
Well, let's get a comment from Oscar Redrop, political commentator on such things. What do you make of all of this, Oscar?
Well, it's probably caused a bit of a headache for the Prime Minister on his holiday. He would have hoped for a really, really quiet Easter weekend. And this is a political issue that is slowly growing, and the tension behind the scenes, particularly amongst the Labour Party at the moment, it will be causing him a bit of distress here, because it is something he's tied himself... It's an issue he's tied himself up in knots on consistently.
No, it's an issue you can't really explain. That's his problem.
That's a good way of putting it.
I would have thought, Oscar, with all due respect, it's now been made easy for him. He can sort of give the inference, well, it's not really my decision, but the court has ruled this. And he gets a simple statement from the court, this is now being defined in law, and surely that gets him off the hook.
That is incredibly watertight and easy. This should be the clarification he's been searching for. However, politically, behind the scenes, as we've seen with these leaked WhatsApp messages, ahead of what are going to be brutally difficult local elections, I imagine, for the Labour Party very soon, politically, it's not that simple for him. And, you know, I always think when you see a leak, there's a reason behind it. There's always the timing of the leak is important to recognise as well. And even though he's been on holiday, even though his silence is becoming, I wouldn't say deafening, but awkward, I would imagine that he has special advisors and people close to him in Number 10 who are forensically trying to get to the bottom of this MP movement and actually seeing how serious it is. Because, look, and I don't want to undermine the political story here, but it is a quiet news cycle. And, you know, these MPs who are, you know, maybe venting a little bit on a WhatsApp group, that's quite different to let's get together a caucus of MPs in a really substantive way to see how we can bypass this ruling. And it would be, and I'm not saying it's one or the either or, and we will see. But he needs to get to the bottom of that very, very quickly. And in terms of the violence, and because there was low-level violence, and the vandalism that we saw over the weekend, his silence on that is also problematic, because it's allowing people like Rob Jenrick very cleverly to come out the bat and say, well, he was straight down firm and hard on the summer protests and riots we saw, nothing on this. Two-tier Keir.
Yeah.
And you know, whether you think...
It's an open goal, isn't it?
It's an open goal, and if Keir Starmer's just sat there letting that build and happen, then that's politically quite tone-deaf, because... And I get it. You go, oh, well, I'll send my Home Secretary out to condemn it. But maybe that's how politics should work, but you are the leader. You are the vocal point for politics in this country. And if you don't come down hard on things like this, people think you don't care.
Yeah. Do you think that we will see a statement to Parliament tomorrow when it returns from recess from Sir Keir Starmer? Would that be the easiest option for him? Or do you think it is difficult? Because, as you've alluded to, we have receipts, don't we, where he has grappled and struggled with this issue. He hasn't been able to answer this question for 5 years himself. So now to stand up and say, yep, I totally welcome it.
Well, when I worked in Number 10, and my experience in Parliament is limited, I must admit. So I'm not quite sure how the likelihood of him actually getting, you know, getting up on the floor and actually, you know, reading a full statement to MPs. I think that's probably unlikely. But he'll definitely get a TV camera shoved in front of his face, and his spokesperson will definitely be asked about it when the lobby journalists get back into Parliament tomorrow. And he's got to come up. I mean, look, it's as you said, Eamonn. He's got to be just crystal clear on this. And I think, as Dawn said previously on the show, and she's absolutely spot on here, the other bit of leadership he needs to show is how this is going to work in practice for people. And bodies.
But that's why leadership is so important, because there's still so many unanswered questions. I mean, how is this going to be implemented, being a big one?
Exactly. And look, I mean, the protest that we saw of the weekend and the vandalism, there's half of me that thinks, you know, it's just mindlessness. It's just a very small proportion of the population, and it's mindlessness, and the weather's decent, and they get out there. But you made the real point that actually, like, when you look at the statues that were targeted, maybe it isn't actually mindless, and there is a symbolic kind of insult that we've seen. And again, like, Keir Starmer should talk to that. He has been on holiday. But there's an unwritten rule in politics where, unfortunately, if you're Prime Minister, you don't get holidays when things kick off.
Sandra says all these Labour MPs furious about this Supreme Court ruling, but not a peep about ECHR rulings. Sue says, had a break from the news since last Wednesday. Came back, it's just as bonkers. That's what we tend to find, isn't it?
That is what we tend to find. Oscar, good to see you. Thank you very much. Well, this leads us on to our poll of the day today. Should more be done to protect our statues from protesters? And as Oscar was just saying there, it's the statue of Millicent Fawcett, which was vandalised over the weekend, but also Winston Churchill and Nelson Mandela. Let us know what you think. You can scan the QR code.
I don't know who Millicent Fawcett is, but I'm learning who she is as a result of this today. But I just think, you know, these people who just deem it, they're going out to protest, and it's like, it's their right to deface and abuse and attack any sort of statue, whatever that statue is. It's like, that's a legitimate target type thing. Should they be sent a sharp message for all of this?
Well, it's not a good look, is it? I mean, any statue being defaced, it's not a good look for whatever cause you are promoting or supporting. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/poll.
OK. Keir Starmer is reportedly considering a Brexit betrayal by handing more of our fishing rights to the EU in exchange for a defence deal. It mightn't surprise you, but what do you think of this? Because this comes as France is said to be threatening to block our involvement in a new UK-EU pact to counter Russian aggression unless we increase their quota.
But what impact would that have on our fishing industry here at home? Well, that is a question for fisherman Andrew Carter, who joins us live now from Whitehaven. Good to see you this morning, Andrew. And what do you make of this? How would this impact you as a fisherman?
Well, it'll massively impact us. I'm hoping that it's some form of a joke, and surely you wouldn't do that. We're an island nation that struggles to feed itself. And the one thing that we can feed ourselves with is fish. We've got a great fishery. And for somebody to negotiate with such a thing when we've been absolutely decimated in the past, it's just a kick in the teeth for fishermen.
Andrew, you sound absolutely exhausted talking about this. I mean, it really does sound like the nail in the coffin for you.
Well, it is. I mean, myself, I've got sort of 7 boats, 7 crews, 7 families. Well, more than 7 families, because some of the boats have, like, 4 families, 4 guys on the boat. To try and keep wages for them and things like that, it's just an absolute nightmare. I mean, for argument's sake, last year, our quota for Dover sole was cut for 3 months, each month, from 400 kilos to 25 kilos. That's a difference in, you know, with the 400 kilos, there's a potential of £8,000 we could catch in a month with the sole. to be cut down to £500. So then I'm telling me lads, look lads, it isn't viable for you to go for 3 months fishing. So what they do then is they go and they turn around and they get a job on a building site or what have you and say, oh, well, that's great. Then what happens is when the quota comes back, all right, well, you know, that's fine, but I'm not coming back. So then I've got £500,000 boat sitting there that's got no crew. The knock-on effect is
of course there is. These are the logistics of all of this, Andrew, the things that nobody ever hears about. Oscar Reddrop, who's sitting in the studio with us, Oscar once had a job where he would advise politicians into making policy. And the thing, Oscar, I just wanted, when you talk to Andrew there and he's saying 7 boats, 7 crews, 7 families involved in all of this, it gives me the impression that often political advice would be quite light on all of this. People they're not seeing the consequences that man is having to bear.
Well, it's interesting. You almost feel a bit of guilt because in Westminster, you get people like me who, quite frankly, don't have a great deal of real-life experience. And that's quite in some ways quite an exposed thing to admit, but it's true. It's the reality. And they will sit round tables and they will seek advice from civil servants who, similarly, don't have real-life impact, understanding and experience. And you do think if there were people like you sat round those tables when big decisions like this are being discussed and made, that you would at least hope a few of those politicians who do live in a bubble, advisors who try their best not to, but also live in bubbles, it would register with them more. And I think, I mean, it's brilliant you've come on the show to talk about this, and you do just hope, like, get in the real world, Keir Starmer. And again, I'm not being political because I was part of a previous government that made similarly probably bad decisions on the ground, but get in the real world and listen to how people will be affected on the ground.
Andrew, that's really honest there from Oscar, from the Westminster perspective. What do you make of politicians? Do you think they've got any understanding of what fishermen and fisherwomen in this country are going through?
No, they don't. But they're not interested either. I've been to so many meetings last year with, for argument's sake, DEFRA, the fisheries, the MMO, as many meetings, Sea Fish, to try and, you know, come on, let's sort of get your best price for your catch and things. When you look at farmers have been nailed and things like that in the past, but when you look at a farmer, like the subsidies for farmers, so what they'll do with a farmer is they'll turn around to a farmer and say, right, OK, we don't want you to produce that. We want you fail to go arable. Just leave it, grow trees, what have you, that's fine. And we'll give you money to do that. If my boats don't go out and we don't catch, because all these guys are share fishermen, the politicians haven't got a clue. And it's all right saying, well, bring these politicians out. I mean, I can honestly say, and this is hand on heart, the first time in 58 years, I'm ashamed to be British. I'm absolutely ashamed. We're a weak nation. We're a laughing stock around the world. And what we need a good negotiator. We need good leaders and strong leaders. And, I mean, to give things away, like our fishing and all that, that's just a kick in the teeth for me. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's very easy for me to be able to say, look, I'll tell you what, I'll sell all my boats, I'll sell everything up, but that doesn't help my crews struggling for what they call it. I think I don't think they care about us. We've got no support whatsoever, no financial support, nothing at all.
Sadly, I think what you said's true, Andrew, and very powerful. Hearing you express yourself there today, because the point I was just trying to raise with Andrew is what experience do any of us have, what experience do advisors have in carrying out, they say, sign this away, and the consequences for someone like you, just absolutely incredible. The consequences for Whitehaven, what would this mean for Whitehaven?
Well, to be honest, listen, we're a coastal community, and coastal communities right down the coast all round. It's a declining industry for the fishing, and I mean it's been so underinvested that it's a joke. I mean, if we lose quotas, any more quota, it is literally pointless what is going on. And to be honest, which he's talking about negotiating for defence or because just to stop the boats, what I can gather, and things like that. And the biggest boats bringing refugees into this country is our own boats. I mean, what happens is that our own boats are bringing them in because we're so politically correct. Why aren't the French?
Sorry to hear all of this, but the clock is against us, unfortunately. But thank you for taking the time for expressing your story, giving us the inside view on all of this. We really appreciate it, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks for giving us a voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. And important to hear Andrew's voice as well, because you very rarely hear the voice of a fisherman in this country. So thank you, Andrew, for that. Very powerful. Thank you, Oscar.
Right, Marco Patanga, weather. Let's have a look.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see outbreaks of rain working their way north-eastwards across the UK as we go through the day. Some brighter skies developing towards the south and west, but that will spark off some heavy, locally even thundery showers. So we'll start Monday with some brightness towards the far north and east of the UK, but notice this band of rain sitting across some southern and western spots. That will gradually push its way north-eastwards into many areas as we go through the day. Notice skies start to brighten towards the south and west, but here we could see a few heavy, potentially thundery showers starting to break out, with drier conditions moving in across the far southwest later. In the sunshine, temperatures not doing too badly, up to 16, locally 17 Celsius, which is a few degrees above the seasonal average. So to end the day then on Monday, we'll still hold on to some bright weather towards the far north-east of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country a rather cloudy end of the day with some outbreaks of showery rain. Across Northern Ireland it's a brighter picture, but here a scattering of locally heavy, even thundery showers is possible, and certainly a mix of sunshine and showers as we head into North Wales and Midlands and the south-east of England, with the driest conditions, the brightest conditions to end the afternoon across South Wales and the south-west of England. That band of rain will continue to move north and north-eastwards across the UK as we go into the overnight period, sitting across the north-east of Scotland into the early hours of Tuesday. Elsewhere, it's a much drier picture, plenty of clear weather around, and because of the clear skies and fairly light winds, it will turn quite chilly by Tuesday morning. In fact, we could see a frost in some rural spots by Tuesday itself. As for Tuesday, well, rain continues to affect the far north-east of Scotland on and off through the day. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshines on the cards after that chilly start. One or two showers breaking out, and there's some more persistent rain starting to move in across the far west of the UK as we head into the second stage of the afternoon. Temperatures are still doing quite well in the sunshine. In the afternoon, we'll peak at around 16 or 17 Celsius. 17 in the southeast is 63 in Fahrenheit, and again, a few degrees above the seasonal average. That's pretty much it. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now I've got time to tell you about our Great British Giveaway, the biggest one we've done to date. Yes, your chance to win a motorhome worth over £67,000, but that's not all.
That is not all. You get 5,000 quid to put petrol in it and drive it anywhere you want to go. And whether the weather's good or whether the weather's bad, it brings you to all these different places and just gives you all the comfort you could imagine and much, much more. And the best thing of all is, could be yours.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, still to come, it's National Tea Drinking Day.
Is it?
Yes. So put the kettle on and you can brew a cuppa with us. We're going to actually make tea later. And you can show me how you make your tea and I'll show you how I make mine.
Well, OK.
Because it's not.
Well, we're obsessed with going to pictures here, not listening to what we're going to say. I was going to show you that I don't have any tea. But anyway, maybe you're in an NHS corridor and you'd welcome a cup. We're going to be talking about hospital beds and the lack of them next.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
You probably know about this. I mean, everybody talks about this, about the amount of accident emergency patients waiting on a hospital bed. They're in corridors. Many of them, 24 hours is quite normal for them. So this data has been compiled by the Liberal Democrats, and it revealed the longest wait for A&E was, couldn't make this up, 10 days.
10 days waiting in a corridor on a trolley. It's being called the trolley wait. And apparently these numbers are 20% higher than they were in 2023 and 58% higher than in 2022.
OK. Health expert Thorin Govid now with her view on all of this. Thorin, why? Why is this, do you think?
So just to confirm, trolley waits are the time it takes when you have been admitted, they've checked you out, and that's that transfer to the ward. So that's separate to the time that you are spending in A&E being considered as to what treatment you actually need or whether you need to be discharged. But there's a whole range of reasons why this is a big problem. It impacts patient well-being. There's an increased risk of harm to patients. But there's just been too much going on. Continued the rising demands, reduced capacity, the lack of beds, social care issues still haven't been tackled adequately. We're getting double booked beds and changes in patient conditions leading to further delays as well. And then those staffing shortages. Indeed, the Royal College of Nursing have commented on this and is saying that this is only scratching the surface. And I agree.
And Thorin, what kind of care can possibly even be given in a corridor? Because you haven't got any privacy there for the patient. There'd be no toilets, would there? I mean, it must be distressing for a patient lying in a corridor like that for hours on end.
I've witnessed it. I've experienced it in the last couple of years. They get through everything. They take you from the bed. They can put a screen around you and things as well. The trouble is, if they can make do, they will make do. And they have to make do. What's the alternative?
Oh, it's just awful experience for the patient, Thorin.
Is with this the increased risk of mortality and death as well, just from these conditions as well, and we can't underestimate that. The Royal College of Medicine were looking into this in 2023, and they were saying almost 14,000 deaths were associated with these long stays. And it doesn't account for those who have worsening experiences as patients as well. This is not the way that we expect our NHS to be in 2025. And it comes back to a whole load of issues about other areas of the NHS as well. So social care, making sure that people who are in hospital can end up going somewhere safe as well. And that's why we can't think of hospital care in isolation.
How does this get better, Thorin? How do we improve this for patients?
Well, the Lib Dems are suggesting that NHS bosses should be drafted in to help sort this situation out. I think it actually needs grassroots healthcare professionals to make sure that, any of those smaller blockers are actually being dealt with and people are supported to do their jobs, because no healthcare professional wants to be working in these conditions either.
There's something we haven't addressed, and that is the patients themselves. Are they more likely to seek out hospital help when maybe in previous years they didn't? And what is available to them? I mean, maybe we just do not have the staff, we do not have the resources, we do not have the facilities for the amount of people who are coming forward.
It is a capacity issue, and there have been steps made in terms of discharge planning, so supporting people to move from hospital into the community. We've got that NHS recovery plan. There has been some positives when it comes to waiting times, for example, but I do think there's still a long way to go for West Streeting. He's not in a job I envy, to be honest.
Thorin, we can only hope and pray it gets better. Let's hope something is done about it. I doubt it somehow. 7:30 is the time. Coming up, we've been pointing out it is National Tea Drinking Day.
Yes, we're going to be meeting a man who is growing British tea. That's next.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. In Hertfordshire, the M1 southbound between Junction 5 and Junction 1 is experiencing a road traffic collision. 2 of the 3 lanes are closed. Expect normal traffic conditions to resume by 8 this morning. Meanwhile, the A406, between Pentrabuck and the A4102 junction, has an incident causing disruption in both directions. Drivers are advised to seek alternative routes where possible. As always, for more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays, I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Now it's time to put the kettle on as we celebrate National Tea Day today.
Well, today is a celebration of Britain's beloved brew, as tea rooms to pubs and even a festival.
A festival, festival.
Oh, right, are raising a cup in style today. See, it doesn't get me.
Festival.
It doesn't do anything for me.
But you do like a tea, don't play hard to get. You do.
There's lots of things I like. There's things I like more than tea, I can assure you.
He likes a good cup of tea, but it has to be with food.
But it's nice. It's nice you get such comfort out of it.
I do. I love my tea. But Britain loves its tea, doesn't it? But is tea still our national favourite, or has coffee crept in?
Well, that surprises me that it hasn't. Jonathan Jones. Let's go to Jonathan.
Oh, there he is.
He will tell us. What do you think? What do you think, Jonathan, about the coffee situation?
Eamonn, the figures don't lie. Ellie's right. It's still the #1 drink. It is the national drink. Look, in Ireland, they drink half a cup more than in England. So I'm not sure where you're getting your stats from. And as Ellie says, it's like a warm hug. It's the national drink. Every day is National Tea Day, in my opinion.
So you've got your GB News mug there, very good, and your Tregothanan tea bag as well, which is made in Cornwall, isn't it? Tell us about Tregothanan tea. I've got one of your bags here.
Oh, very nice. Good taste. So, yes, the first tea grown in England, at Tregothanan in Cornwall. And this weekend coming up, we're open for people to come and pluck their own tea, because this coincides, this year's National Tea Day, with when the first leaves come up. And you can come and see how tea is grown in this country for the first time. And look, it's still the world's #1 drink as well. You can tell Eamonn that as well. It's not just the UK's #1 drink. And it's, good for you.
It just surprises me, Jonathan, because coffee gets such publicity. As I say, I don't drink coffee, but all I ever hear of people is they've called into this place and that place and they pay £5 a cup or whatever it is for it. And I just hear people talking coffee. That's all. But listen, you talked about growing tea. Can you talk us through what you do there at the garden centre, Tregothan?
Sure. Yeah. So. You're right, Eamonn. Coffee's got all the fuss and the noise. It's become quite snobbish, and wine similar. But actually, you can drink tea anyway. You can take it out of home. There aren't the tea houses like there are coffee houses. That's part of it. But the reason we grow tea is we want to put the Englishness into English tea for the first time. So it's the Camellia sinensis bush. We put the first tea bushes in 1999. It takes about 8 years to harvest, but they should be growing for 500 years. It's a very long-term crop. So Tregothanan is right in the heart of Cornwall. I'm at Land's End at the moment, waiting to fly to the Scilly Isles, where we'll be tasting tea over there. But you can't grow tea on the Scillies. You can't even grow tea on most of Cornwall. It's just in the middle of Cornwall. There's this sheltered spot around the River Fowle where there's no salt and it's perfect for tea, just like Darjeeling in the Himalayas. But we've forgotten that we've drunk tea in this country for 400 years, and we've forgotten how we got into it. So I've started the world's first tea column like you get wine columns, but this is in the most British of magazines, in Country Life magazine. And we're teaching people every week how to make and drink tea. You might think it's a joke, but people have forgotten how to make really good tea. And that's why partly they're not very adventurous and they all drink the same tea that they've always grown up with. But there's hundreds of teas out there to try.
So let's talk about English breakfast tea, shall we, which I think is the nation's favourite still. What is the perfect way to make a cup of tea, Jonathan? Because it is controversial. As you say, it's an art form that has been lost.
Well, give it plenty of time. Coffee's taught us one good thing, and that is slow down, obviously spend more, but also lower the temperature. So if you want one tip of the day to make great breakfast tea, don't use boiling water. Let it come off the boil a little bit, but just give it much longer to brew, 4 or 5 minutes, and then decide if you want to put milk in, but try it without first. See if that's not the best breakfast tea you've ever had, in a GB News mug, of course.
It has to be. Jonathan Jones, thank you very much from Tregothnan Teas. Always good to talk to you.
You make a good point about temperature, Jonathan. Burning the mouth off you. Don't want that as well. So thanks, mate, and have yourself a good day. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
So, Dawn, are you a tea fan?
I love a nice cup of tea, but it's got to be in a big mug, preferably a West Ham mug. Little tiny splash of milk, no sugar, strong as you like. Yeah, love it.
Good. Well, this has been brewing for a while.
I'm not necessarily a tea man. I was quite surprised to hear about tea being made in the UK. So busted, Daisy. I've always been thinking of tea being made in China. That's a slight problem over here.
Making tea and pouring tea, two different things.
Yeah, Mrs. Costello, you have to learn to pour a cup of tea for your new husband.
World's worst wife.
I poured it all over my work. Oh, no. That was really hard work.
How was it possible to...
Don't, because you'll spill it over me.
It's overfilled.
To miss that. I tell you what, love, I think it's...
No, it's overfilled. It came out the top.
It's really heavy.
There you go. It's really heavy. Look, it's not my fault.
But it also came out the top as well. It's too full up, isn't it?
Should I try again? I'm scared now. I'm going to get it over Eamonn. Hang on.
But yeah, I like NATO. I don't mean I'm not a tea drinker, but if I'm going to drink it, NATO standard. Slightly stewed, sweet, hot, get it down your neck, son.
OK.
OK. Get these two down your neck. They're going to be reviewing the papers right after this short break.
And I'll just clean up.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. We'll see plenty of sunshine across the Mediterranean over the next few days, but also plenty of showers, some of those on the heavy side. Certainly on Tuesday, a few showers across the Canaries and Madeira, some more persistent spells of rain across parts of Spain, and then we head into a mixture of sunshine and scattered locally heavy, even thundery showers across central and eastern parts of the Med. As for the rest of the week, well, western spots will tend to brighten up, certainly some warm sunshine developing here, but plenty of showers continue further east.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
High street retailers have been unveiling their new collections with the arrival of the warmer weather, with critics warning that British staple M&S faces a stampede due to the popularity of their new ranges. Well, joining us now is fashion and upcycling consultant Tendai Marewa.
This spring we're going a little bit less bold prints, but we're focusing more on textures and embroidery and more brighter colours. The reds are in, the blues, and the minis are back in.
Oh gosh, we're all going to have to get our pins out, Adam. Oh dear.
Are we?
So M&S, Marks & Spencer, they seem to be doing very well.
Yeah. I think what they've managed to do is to get the younger audience as well. We see it on TikTok. They've got a trend with their jackets. Everybody's loving it. So the mums and the daughters can all wear the same collection.
Oh, I've seen so many TikToks, you're absolutely right, of younger women going into M&S, trying on the clothes, showing off their M&S haul, is what they call it, and, just pushing the clothes. They like it. They say, it's cool now.
I think that's amazing, because I think, there shouldn't be ageism in shops. We should all go to one shop and come out with whatever we want, and they've managed to do that. And they're bringing out this collection where they got 10 dresses each month from April to June, and it's affordable to everyone and just perfect for summer.
Yeah, and then I suppose quite good quality. Where else on the high street can people go, you know, if they don't want to spend too much money?
Reach out to your local charity shop and, you know, support them by just buying whatever they have, revamp it, add some buttons, some embroidery, and there you go.
What if you're not very good at the old arts and crafts? Like me.
That's where the upcycling consultant is.
The People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Don Neeson, Chris Akabusi, and they've got the stories making the papers today. And Chris, here's an ongoing story. We go back 50 or so years with this one, and this is the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And veterans, the Express call it a fresh witch hunt. A lot of people would just say it as legality, lawfulness, but the Legacy Act comes into force here. And this is soldiers being held to account for actions they took and people they shot at and in some cases killed whilst wearing a uniform.
Yeah, look, so I didn't go to Northern Ireland, but I was certainly served during the Troubles. I joined the Army in 1975, and the Troubles, I believe, were being policed in 1979 to the 80s. It is alarming that 50 years after their fact, that you could use contemporary laws to go back and to put people through the crosshairs of investigation and potentially bang them up to rights, because you know the theatre. There are complex things that can happen in a theatre of highly attuned moments that, in a calm light of day, might not quite be appropriate. Now, I'm not justifying any sort of illegal activity. No, of course I'm not doing that. I don't know the minutiae, but I can understand that soldiers are worried 50 years after the effect that they could be hauled into the dock and held to account for something that doesn't seem appropriate in today's world. So I am alarmed.
I don't know really what you're saying, Chris, because murder was murder then, as it is now. And I think when more details become available, who was armed, who wasn't armed, what the circumstances were, you know, if someone has murdered or fired off 13 rounds and killed 5 people or whatever, I think they have a case to answer.
Yeah,
I think you get these newspapers like the Sun and the Express, whatever, and come out and say, "Oh, our boys are being picked on, and they're only doing their duty and whatever." But that's not the case.
Yeah. I mean, let's say, murder is murder. I don't know the minutiae. I don't know the detail. And of course, if there's something as blatantly obvious as an unarmed man gets mowed down by 10 soldiers, you know, that's one thing. I'm talking about elements of things that happen. Look, there's 4 of us, we're in a brick, we're crossing the road, and it's my responsibility to ensure that your lives are safe and secure. Something pops up and I don't challenge you appropriately, I think you've got to go and pop, you know, the unimaginable happens, and then 50 years later, you put me in a dock to go through all the minutiae. No, I don't think that's right as well, because at that time, under severe pressure, I thought I said something, didn't do it quite well, but I was protecting your lives. And you are the most important people to me in that moment, in that time. So, I mean, look, bad. I don't want to make judgments because I don't know the minutiae, but I do understand that if I was a soldier who had gone to Northern Ireland, for example, I wouldn't be happy that 50 years later. And, you know, the theatre going on, how does this encourage potential soldiers today to join the army and go off to theatres like Ukraine, knowing that in 2070 you could be hauled for the coals?
That was the point I was going to make. We have a terrible recruitment crisis with our armed forces as it is, and we had a story the other day about the terrible living accommodation supplied to our armed forces, the amount of people that come out of the armed forces and end up living rough because they're homeless, etc., with mental health issues. We don't look after our armed forces veterans. We don't look after people that are currently serving. How is this going to attract anybody to join up, especially in the world we're living in now with the Ukrainian situation?
Correct.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
Correct.
Dawn, let's look at something totally different, shall we, in the Times today. The joys of Dubai.
Yes, let's not. I don't think there's any joy to Dubai, speaking as a woman, where I'm a second-class citizen. But this...
You wouldn't be moving there, then?
No, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't even go there on holiday. No, absolutely. I didn't even watch the World Cup when it's in Qatar for those reasons, to be honest with you. But Dubai are launching an influencer academy. It's called the Beautiful Destination Academy, and they are inviting budding influencers to go and live and travel in Dubai and train to promote the country on social media in return for free accommodation, etc., etc., which is fine. And I get, go to Dubai. Lots of people go on holiday to Dubai. Most of the country is foreigners in any case. Very few people are native Dubai. But it's a country that lives under Sharia law. So if you're a homosexual, if you're a woman, if you're a woman and you're raped in Dubai, that's sex outside of marriage. You can find yourself in court over that. And there are many, certainly young women, Ellie, that have been lured over to Dubai to be models and end up in all sorts of horrible situations. So it's basically a school for influencers to promote Dubai, is the story. However, there's much more to it than that.
Chris?
People still see it, Dawn. I totally take on board everything that you've said there. But at the end of the day, people look and they say, oh, you can get 300 quid a week in July going to
absolutely.
Dubai.
And it's tax-free and the weather's lovely.
It's 7-star service.
Yeah.
It's not 5-star service, it's 7-star.
However, they are still treating women and gay people appallingly.
Yeah, you scratch the surface, it's quite a dark underbelly, isn't it?
Well, that's 2 stories in a row, which are not all that they seem.
Chris, let's have a look at allergy risks.
Yes. This is about schools and 3 million days were 3 million school days were lost in I don't know what year, 2023, due to allergy challenges. I was a little bit perturbed because we're bashing the schools again, and ultimately schools are about education, although I do understand they've got to be a safe place for all pupils to attain, to go to. But what they're saying is that some of the systems and processes are not actually in place to ensure that some of our extreme cases are not catered for. It's a challenge. It's a challenge because, in the end...
Are they not detecting these allergies, or are they encouraging these allergies? Or
Well, there's a case, for example, of a young lad who lost 122 days of his schooling due to some sort of allergy, and the school could have done better. But I remember they say individual cases make bad laws, and I'm not quite sure whether our institutions can really... cater for every single potential challenges there are, with individuals. Of course, it's got to be safe, it's got to be clean, it's got, It's a challenge. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, schools are getting batterings again, and it's hard enough just educating pupils without crossing every single dot. And the I's.
One of my friends...
Here's a story in the Star, and I don't know if people will be allergic to urine.
Here we go.
So this is a new beer, right? And it's made from urine.
Yes!
And...
Don't like that at all.
When you don't know, you haven't tried it.
I wouldn't be trying it. That's disgusting.
Well, some people say that tea could be a little bit...
That's
you, right? No, I mean, this is absolutely shocking to make this beer out of... it's an Okolo, it's a brewery using human wee. When I was a kid and I was 16, I remember necking some sort of pale ale. No.
I was going to say, where's this one going?
Necking pale ale. I hated the taste, but if you wanted to be a bloke, you neck pale ale. Then you get older and it's lager, all right? Yeah. And I didn't like lager, but I necked it because it was the idea now to drink Okolo with beer.
But you wouldn't know. I mean, if someone put a pint of lager in front of you and said, right, here's a nice cold pint, or not summer's day like we were talking about earlier on, you wouldn't know, because it wouldn't taste like wee, would it?
Well, I don't know.
Let's be honest here. Well, it really wouldn't.
Well, some of the beverages don't taste too good.
Well,
do they?
I mean, I've drunk some wine.
Would you ever go? Would you ever go?
No, certainly would not.
Would you ever go?
Whether it tasted like it or not, no, because it still is wee.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would you try it?
Not a prayer, mate.
No.
Dawn, would you?
Yeah, to
East End girl.
What is the situation with drinking wee? Some people encourage it. I mean,
that's supposed to healthy.
Yeah, there was an actress that used to swear by it. Sort of
Beverly
like
Turner underwent a test where she washed her hair for a week using wee, and it was apparently very good.
Did it bleach her hair, or what did it do?
No.
Make it curly?
It was. I don't know. I mean, I remember asking her about it, and it all was okay.
Well, rather her than me.
But yeah, I'm sort of with you, Ellie, I think.
But apparently it's completely odourless and.
See, it's just
tasteless.
It's just going to taste like beer, isn't it? They must purify it somehow.
There's just no need, though, is there? There's just no need. Leave the wee where it is.
Recycling.
Okay. Guys, thank you very much indeed. If I was you two, I would stick to the tea. But thank you very much indeed.
Ellie's just made it,
and
to be honest.
How is that tea? No, you don't like it.
It was okay.
Don't worry, I think there's a bit of Okolo in there.
I'm slightly more worried about what it's done to the top of the desk.
I know. I did throw the tea everywhere, didn't I?
Well, the reason is we're talking about this because today is National Tea Drinking Day, and we'll be teaching you more and we'll be learning more about making the perfect brew a little later. And this is Ellie making some earlier. The main secret is getting the tea into the mug, which apparently is.
It's a leaking pot.
Yeah, it is. Poor workman.
And it's very heavy, and you can attest to that. I can make a cup of tea, I promise.
Good morning, Marco. How are you?
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see outbreaks of rain working their way northeastwards across the UK as we go through the day. Some brighter skies developing towards the south and west, but that will spark off some heavy, locally even thundery showers. So we'll start Monday with some brightness towards the far north and east of the UK, but notice this band of rain sitting across some southern and western spots. That will gradually push its way northeastwards into many areas as we go through the day. Notice skies start to brighten towards the south and west, but here we could see a few heavy, potentially thundery showers starting to break out, with drier conditions moving in across the far southwest later. In the sunshine, temperatures not doing too badly, up to 16, locally 17 Celsius, which is a few degrees above the seasonal average. So to end the day then on Monday, we'll still hold on to some bright weather towards the far north-east of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country a rather cloudy end of the day with some outbreaks of showery rain. Across Northern Ireland it's a brighter picture, but here a scattering of locally heavy, even thundery showers is possible, and certainly a mix of sunshine and showers as we head into North Wales and Midlands and the south-east of England, with the driest conditions, the brightest conditions to end the afternoon across South Wales and the south-west of England. That band of rain will continue to move north and northeastwards across the UK as we go into the overnight period, sitting across the northeast of Scotland into the early hours of Tuesday. Elsewhere, it's a much drier picture, plenty of clear weather around, and because of the clear skies and fairly light winds, it will turn quite chilly by Tuesday morning. In fact, we could see a frost in some rural spots by Tuesday itself. As for Tuesday, well, rain continues to affect the far northeast of Scotland on and off through the day. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine on the cards after that chilly start. 1 or 2 showers breaking out, and there's some more persistent rain starting to move in across the far west of the UK as we head into the second stage of the afternoon. Temperatures are still doing quite well in the sunshine. In the afternoon, we'll peak at around 16 or 17 Celsius. 17 in the southeast is 63 in Fahrenheit, and again, a few degrees above the seasonal average. That's pretty much it. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The 1 1
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M74 is experiencing restrictions in both directions from Junction 11 to Junction 9 due to a contraflow system in use causing potential delays. In Hertfordshire, the M1 southbound between Junction 5 and Junction 1 remains partially closed following a road traffic incident, with 2 out of 3 lanes affected. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this Easter Monday morning. Pressure on the Prime Minister today to break his silence over the Supreme Court's trans ruling.
Well, it comes as Labour MPs are accused of plotting to circumvent the court's decision.
Now, that comes as the Home Secretary lashes out at weekend protesters who defaced feminist monuments in Westminster.
Yes, the Home Secretary has said that is disgraceful and that it's right that the police are investigating. Meanwhile, nothing on that Supreme Court ruling from the Prime Minister. That's bound to change in the next day or two. I'll bring you some details shortly.
Trump-proofing our armed forces, the defence industry, to ramp up domestic explosive and weapons manufacturing amid fears over US unreliability.
Brexit betrayal. The Prime Minister is accused of caving into pressure from the EU. As it's emerged, he is poised to sign away sovereign fishing waters in exchange for a defence deal.
A crisis in NHS corridor care as thousands of patients are forced to wait more than 24 hours for a hospital bed.
Traffic congestion is expected across large parts of the country today, with the RAC warning it could be the busiest day in 3 years.
And if you're coming back from a getaway, find out which airport has been named the worst for flight delays.
It's National Tea Drinking Day, so let's raise a brew and a bicky to the nation's favourite hot drink.
Hello, good morning. We've got a band of rain moving its way north and eastwards across the UK as we go through the day today, giving way to brighter skies towards the south and west, but that will also spark off some heavy and thundery showers. I'll have all the details later.
However you're watching, however you're listening, the time, 2 minutes past the hour of 8 o'clock on this Monday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
You've put the whole country off tea making.
Oh, no, I'm not surprised, actually, after that. It was diabolical, wasn't it?
No, but there is an art to stopping a dribble. You know, when you do that, when you do the pouring and it dribbles back down on yourself.
I didn't know how to stop. It was splashing everywhere.
Well,
I made a right mess.
Well, don't worry.
Oh, well.
He'll not divorce you over that, though.
Well, I hope not, no. I mean, you'd think that's pretty basic, isn't it, making a cup of tea?
Thank you for all the lovely comments on how beautiful that Miss Ellie looked on her wedding a week ago. Very good. This is part 1 of her wedding. You will hear about part 2 in July.
Thanks, Eamonn, yeah.
Which will be abroad and bathed in sunshine and just looking...
Well, we hope so.
Lovely. It will be. It will be.
Yeah. Is it just part 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for all your lovely comments and all your lovely messages. It's been really nice. Thank you.
Now, pressure is mounting on the Prime Minister to break his silence on the Supreme Court's landmark gender ruling.
Well, it comes after Labour MPs are accused of plotting to circumvent the judgment in leaked WhatsApp messages.
Over the weekend, trans rights activists and trade unions gathered for an emergency demonstration where multiple statues were defaced, including that of suffragette Millicent Fawcett.
Well, the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has slammed the vandalism as disgraceful, but Sir Keir Starmer is yet to comment.
Well, let's get more on all of this. Here's our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, in the studio. Good to see you, Catherine. Why has he been so hesitant? If the court has ruled and given him, you know, a document to go on, why would he be so hesitant?
Well, in fairness to the Prime Minister, he has been on holiday in Southern Europe. My understanding is he's back today. So I'm sure we will hear from him in the next couple of days. But look, this has been incredibly difficult for years for the Prime Minister and many politicians. What is a woman? You'd think it was a very basic question. Now, the Supreme Court last week has said biological sex, adult, human, female, but the Prime Minister has tied himself in knots over this. And I had personal experience of this last year during the general election campaign. There was a bit of a row erupted because Rosie Duffield, who's now sitting as an independent, but was a Labour MP and very concerned about women's rights being eroded, had previously said that only a woman has a cervix. And Sir Keir Starmer had said that that was not right and should not be said. And then last summer, lo and behold, Tony Blair says, biologically, a woman is with a vagina, a man is with a penis. And Sir Keir Starmer says, yes, I agree with Tony Blair. So I said to him, can you tell me specifically what's the difference between what Rosie Duffield has said about anatomy and what Tony Blair has said about anatomy? And he just went into a... I am very committed to women's rights. Women's rights are very important. Look how many, you know, shadow female ministers I have. But he totally ignored the question, and it's a pattern that we've seen repeated. So I think it'll be very interesting how he manages this.
What I'm saying is, does this not make life easier for him, the fact the Supreme Court has ruled, and therefore he says, I refer you to the Supreme Court ruling on whatever date?
Well, possibly, yes, but we know that within Labour itself, there's some people deeply unhappy about this ruling. So we've got a couple of ministers, some WhatsApp chat messages were leaked over the weekend. Angela Eagle, she's a Home Office minister. She had said that Labour MPs need to organise and to query the judgment with the relevant equalities minister. And the Culture Minister, Chris Bryant, has said that comments by the Equality and Human Rights Commission chair were pretty appalling. So they are deeply unhappy, and there'll be many figures within Labour deeply unhappy about this ruling. So I suspect that the Prime Minister will in some ways be still wanting to say as little as possible.
And will we expect him to address the vandalism that we saw on Saturday? Because at the moment we've got this open goal of the likes of Robert Jenrick and Nigel Farage saying this is another example of two-tier care. When you would talk about the riots over the summer and say how awful they were and that vandalism wasn't acceptable, but nothing has been said about the vandalism that we saw on Saturday.
Yes, I would expect he will comment on this, and obviously the Home Secretary has already said it's disgraceful, that it's right the police are investigating. Now, there were a number of statues vandalised. The police are investigating it as criminal damage. Most notably, of course, the suffragette leader, Millicent Fawcett. We see that on the screen there. That's the only statue of a woman in Parliament Square, but some other statues vandalised as well. I think it's interesting that no one has been arrested yet. Now, the police say, look, there were thousands of people there, you know, they couldn't possibly see who did it. So I think let's see what happens now. But I think this feeds into, too, obviously, many women will think it's a huge victory for women and that it's a court case that really should never have needed to be had. But that some women will think that this is about misogyny, frankly, because trans rights, many feel, can impinge on women's rights, particularly things like trans women in female sport, and that men are not affected by this. It doesn't impinge on men's rights in any way.
Could I ask you,
women's.
are you too, as women, affected by this? Do you go to bed at night and say, that court ruling happened today, that affects me?
Well, I think...
I'm just curious.
I think, yes, I think because I am a woman and women fought very hard for a very long time to get to the rights that we have now. And we're still fighting in some ways for equality. And so I think those rights...
So what are those rights? Are those rights that anybody can declare themselves a woman, or are those rights that you have to be very, very careful who you actually assign the sex of a woman to?
I think, not for me personally, but for many, the concern is around safety, because women are physically not as strong as men, and it's about female-only spaces in prisons, for example, where we've seen, you know, a bad actor do terrible things to women in what should be a women's own environment, somebody who was still physically a male but identified as a woman. I think it's about safety.
And do you think, Ellie, that applies? Most women that you would know, that's the way they would think on this?
Yeah, I think so. I think for a lot of people, it's just the clarity. It's a relief for a lot of women that there's now been clarity. As Catherine just alluded to there's been a number of legal issues with the justice system. We've seen cases with the NHS where there's been confusion around this, where public bodies don't know how to implement it, where perhaps the wrong decisions have been made, whereas now the law is very clear. And the law hasn't changed. It's just been clarified, hasn't it? And been made simple. So it'll be interesting to see if the Prime Minister says something tomorrow, once they're back from recess.
Which brings us to our poll of the day. Should more be done to protest statues, as you saw there, attacked at the weekend, to protect statues from protesters?
Yes, let us know what you think. You can scan the QR code on your screen now. You can head to gbnews.com/poll.
Catherine, what about this arms issue thing that we're now going to concentrate more in producing our own munitions than be dependent on America, for instance?
Yes, so this is the fact that clearly, despite all the Prime Minister's warm words about America and not wanting to upset America, it is clear that we cannot rely on America like we used to be able to. We have to spend more on defence and on our own defence. So it sounds like we are going to be investing much more in physically making our own weapons. I was on a trip with the Prime Minister a few weeks ago up in the Wirral, and he was basically saying, look, this is good news, British jobs for British workers, British companies. BAE Systems is one being named today.
How do we pay for this?
Well, We're paying for it, obviously, the cuts to foreign aid, but this is going to be expensive because we haven't needed to spend so much on defence for decades because we never thought we'd have a war in Europe again. So it's going to be hard. And Rachel Reeves, for all her ironclad fiscal rules, not wanting to raise taxes, not wanting to make further cuts, it's going to be difficult. And, you know, we've got this defence review coming. We're currently going to 2.5% spending on defence in the next couple of years, 3%. You know, we may have to go beyond that. So it will be good news for the defence industry and some British jobs. But, yeah, it's going to be expensive and we're all going to be paying for it.
And what does it say about the relationship between the UK and President Trump and the Trump regime, that basically we have to have a plan two with him all the time? It's obviously a question of trust here.
Yeah. Well, yes, and the thing is that there are things being said and done by America that you just would never have sort of seen coming a few months ago, like saying they might annex Greenland, talking about Canada. These are
and you think,
allies.
Surely not serious, and then it goes on and on. You think maybe they are serious.
Well, J.D. Vance went to Greenland to have a look. His wife went and she was going to do some visits, and then that had to be pared back because, funnily enough, Greenlanders were not that keen on
not happy to see them,
people that want to. So it's difficult, but we've seen what's happened with Ukraine in that. All right, we still don't have a ceasefire, do we? But America had been giving lots of aid, and then after that blow up in the Oval Office, that very unedifying row, America just basically switched off intelligence, switched off aid. That was very difficult, and who's to say that that might not happen again? Okay. So it's important. We've got to look after ourselves.
Catherine, we covered a lot there. Thank you very much indeed for enlightening us on so many fronts. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Now, Easter Monday is expected to be the busiest day of the year so far for travel from abroad to the UK.
Schools, most of them are back tomorrow. Over 500,000 people are returning from holidays in Europe and beyond. Travellers on ferries from northern France to Dover, though, may face long delays at the border, while here in the UK, motorway queues and rail disruptions are expected.
Well, trying to make sense of it all is our friend, the travel correspondent for The Independent, Simon Calder, who has managed to make his own escape from Britain. He joins us from a boat in the Adriatic Sea off the coast of Croatia. Always in fantastic places, Simon. Good to see you. Happy Easter. And considering you're on a boat, should we talk about the ferries? How's it looking in the Channel?
OK, well, yes, and happy Easter to you. Great to see you, Ellie and Eamonn. I am working despite appearances. So, yeah, let me tell you what's happening it's in particular Dover and Calais, or in fact coming back from Calais, because you will be aware that all the border controls are done on the French side of the Channel when you're going to Dover, and that means you go through the French police aux frontières. They've got to stamp you out of the European Union. Then you go through the UK border. They've got to check you in, and also they have to, for instance, enforce the ban on meat and dairy that we've imposed on the EU. That's all going to take time. You've got motorists converging from across Europe. Some of them have been in southern France and Spain. Others have been in the French Alps, and they are all going to be arriving starting round about now. And already Irish Ferries has said it's going to be extremely busy. Irish Ferries, by the way, doesn't just sail to Ireland, it also does Dover, Calais. They say if you are held up, we will put you on the next available sailing, and that is going to be happening also on DFDS and on P&O ferries. All you can do if you're caught up in that is just hope for the best and keep listening to GB News Radio to find out how things are and also keep you entertained. But elsewhere, the Caledonian McBrain ferries in Western Scotland, they are having big problems, mostly due to actually vessel availability and mechanical problems and all manner of issues. So if you're going, for instance, to and from places like Mull, South Uist and so on, be prepared for disruption. And also Arran, the island of Arran, which just has a service going back and forth to Troon in Ayrshire, they have over the last couple of days been saying, right, that's enough, we're full up, no more space available. So that's the ferries for you. And even if you get back from Calais to Dover, then the roads are going to be in quite a mess because the AA has issued an amber travel warning. Over 18 million journeys expected to be made on the roads today. And it's the usual suspects, M25 from the M23 Gatwick turn off all the way round past Heathrow to the M40 and the to Oxford and Birmingham. M5 going north from Devon is going to be busy up to Bristol and up to Birmingham. And then coming out of Blackpool later and out of the lakes, you can expect long delays joining the M6.
More culprits, but I do believe in credit where credit's due, and you mentioned Gatwick there, which is top of the delay list. I think they have delays on average of half an hour, which I don't think is too bad, to be quite truthful. I'd be quite happy if that's what happened to me. But I want to mention Belfast City, George Best Airport, recorded as the best punctuality performance in the UK for the second year in a row. Delays there will never be more than 12 minutes. So that's where they're going so far.
Oh, sure, yes. Actually, Gatwick, top of the list. Actually, 23 minutes, down from 27 the year before. Birmingham and Manchester also long delays. As you say, George Best, Belfast City, it's generally a breeze going in and out. It's a very well-run, small airport, and so that's a great place to be. But I'll tell you where the problems are today. We've had actually quite a lot of delays in and out, coming back into Stansted Airport, particularly Ryanair flights arriving overnight have picked up delays during the day. Air traffic control staff shortages in Europe mostly to blame. You start off in the morning sitting on the plane for half an hour because the pilot says we can't take off yet, and then by the time that's kind of built up during the day, you're facing a delay of an hour or two late on. And on top of that, Birmingham Airport, oh dear, coming back on TUI, the Heraklion flight arrived 6 hours late at about 5:40 this morning, and poor passengers from the airport of Melbourne Orlando, which is in Florida, they were about 44 hours late because their plane apparently had a taxiway excursion, ended up on the grass, needed to be checked out. I'm still waiting to hear from TUI about that. But yeah, if you're only delayed by an hour or two, I'd take that as a win, frankly.
Simon, really appreciate it. Thank you. I'd take it as a win if I was sitting beside you there, I have to say. But well done. Enjoy your trip, and we'll speak again soon. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, I wish we had the sunshine, like Simon Calder.
I don't think we're going to have it today.
No. Well, Marco Patanga's got all the details for us.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see outbreaks of rain working their way northeastwards across the UK as we go through the day. Some brighter skies developing towards the south and west, but that will spark off some heavy, locally even thundery showers. So we'll start Monday with some brightness towards the far north and east of the UK, but notice this band of rain sitting across some southern and western spots. That will gradually push its way northeastwards into many areas as we go through the day. Notice skies start to brighten towards the south and west, but here we could see a few heavy, potentially thundery showers starting to break out, with drier conditions moving in across the far southwest later. In the sunshine, temperatures not doing too badly, up to 16, locally 17 Celsius, which is a few degrees above the seasonal average. So to end the day then on Monday, we'll still hold on to some bright weather towards the far north-east of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country a rather cloudy end of the day with some outbreaks of showery rain. Across Northern Ireland it's a brighter picture, but here a scattering of locally heavy, even thundery showers is possible, and certainly a mix of sunshine and showers as we head into North Wales and Midlands and the south-east of England, with the driest conditions, the brightest conditions to end the afternoon across South Wales and the south-west of England. That band of rain will continue to move north and northeastwards across the UK as we go into the overnight period, sitting across the northeast of Scotland into the early hours of Tuesday. Elsewhere, it's a much drier picture, plenty of clear weather around, and because of the clear skies and fairly light winds, it will turn quite chilly by Tuesday morning. In fact, we could see a frost in some rural spots by Tuesday itself. As for Tuesday, well, rain continues to affect the far northeast of Scotland on and off through the day. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshines on the cards after that chilly start. 1 or 2 showers breaking out, and there's some more persistent rain starting to move in across the far west of the UK as we head into the second stage of the afternoon. Temperatures are still doing quite well in the sunshine. In the afternoon, we'll peak at around 16 or 17 Celsius. 17 in the southeast is 63 in Fahrenheit, and again, a few degrees above the seasonal average. That's pretty much it. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Very important to us, and I hope it's important to you as well, is the Trick Award nominations. We're on that long list. We need to get on the short list if we have any chance of winning a prize. So the breakfast show, you scan that QR code, is that what it is?
Yeah, QR code, yeah.
Scan that QR code, and then the details are there as to how to vote, how to get us on that short list. And we're also would be very, very pleased if Charlie Peters, our colleague, was able to get on that short list as well. Best News Presenter category. Outstanding work that Charlie has done exposing the grooming gangs, the rapists around the country. So much of what has happened to them is a result of his investigative work. So register your vote, scan the QR code and get us on the shortlists. Thank you very much indeed.
Time to tell you as well about our biggest giveaway to date, your chance to win a motorhome worth over £67,000. But that's not all. £5,000 in tax-free cash also up for grabs.
Would you be good at cleaning a motorhome after that?
No, I don't fancy a motorhome at all.
No, you don't?
No.
See, I couldn't go, if it was untidy, I couldn't be
No.
I couldn't be good around in it.
No.
So it'd have to be tidy.
It wouldn't be for us, but it could be for you. You might like the sound of this. Here are all of the details that you need.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Don't blame me, I'm just reading this, right? Is it cruel to make children do household chores? Cruel is the actual word here.
Yes.
The thing is, if you don't ask or expect from them, they'll certainly not do it.
Oh, well, no.
Are you good at chores?
Very good at chores. I like to see. I see things to be done, I get them done.
Where do you think that came from?
My parents.
You see,
I had strict parents.
My parents were very good. My mother kept the most beautiful home, spotless, whatever it is. But there were 4 boys, 5 boys, including my dad.
So how did she do that?
Plus her. She worked like a slave, didn't she? That's what she did. And I feel quite ashamed of it, that really I've grown up being rather useless, because basically she just cleaned around you, did everything, cooked, cleaned, washed up, did all those things.
So you didn't muck in with chores?
Well, I did muck in for certain things, like my dad's car, to clean his car and polish his car.
That's a good one.
And that was myself and my brother Bran, that was in our own interest, because we realised, we'd say, Dad, will we clean your car and dry it off, or bring it down to the garage and get it with the wheels polished or painted or whatever it happened to be. So that got us driving, but so.
Oh, I see.
But it suited us from that point of view.
As a means to your own end.
But anyway, a lot of youngsters today don't want a means to their end. They don't want to do chores. They don't want to work. They don't want to help. It all gets a bit much for them. Should that be the case? Next.
We're
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Gynecological health, women's health as a whole, is one of the biggest societal challenges that we face currently.
What would you say, Josephine?
I've been massively failed over the 12 years that I've been dealing with endometriosis in many, many different ways. I wasn't believed to begin with. I was passed from pillar to post. There was a time where after an endometriosis surgery, I got sepsis. I wasn't believed and I was sent away from the hospital and the next day was taken back in quite a serious state. I think because I was young, but also because endometriosis just isn't taken seriously at all.
Is it because women go to the doctor and they say, I'm having really bad pains, and then what does the doctor say sometimes? Do they say, oh, well, everyone gets bad period pains, just have a bit of Nurofen? Is that what sometimes happens, Valentina?
Period and pelvic pain is a silent public health pandemic. It affects 9 out of 10 women. And research from the British Medical Journal tells us that we lose 9 to 12 productive days each year to period pain. But we can't really blame medical professionals. We can't blame GPs. We can't blame the NHS because there isn't research that they can rely on. We have massively underfunded gynecological health as a whole. Currently, we spend only about 2.4% of our entire public health budget for the entirety of women's health. So that 2.4% is measly, and it has to stretch to cover breast cancer, maternity care, menopause, endometriosis. And because women were not allowed to take part in clinical trials up until 1993, we don't really know how most modern medications affect the female physiology versus the male physiology.
The People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
OK, now we're just talking about things that you could have done to get on the right side of your parents, doing the right thing. You know, did you vacuum at home? Did you make your own bed, for instance?
I washed up my lunchbox when I got home from school.
Yeah, fair enough. And, you know, it's a small thing, but it would
big help to the parents.
Big help, you know, if your mum's then faced with making lunch for your lunchbox later on that night and whatever it is. So we're talking about... what all these things have in common? Well, the answer is that apparently 10% of parents think it's heartless. It's heartless, that's the word, to ask young people to do simple chores like that. So this morning, Ellie, what are we asking?
Our debate question this morning, are household chores cruel for kids?
Well, joining us to debate this, parenting expert Annette Kello and also journalist and mum Julie Cook. Well, where do we begin? Julie, let's begin with you. What's your view?
It is cruel because I think children are only your children for 16 years, 18 years, right? And then they go and they have to do all this stuff for themselves. I think while they're young, their main priorities should be their education, coming in, doing their homework, getting to bed, getting enough sleep. My children, for example, are 11 and 16, so one's doing his GCSEs, the other still randomly has a ton of homework, even at 11. By the time they've come in and done their homework, they're exhausted and they go to bed. I just don't think it is my job as a parent to tell them to then go and mop the floor or hoover their bedrooms. Their main focus is their education at this age.
Yeah. You made my blood run cold there talking about homework, because I'm not a believer in homework. I think school is where you do work and then you come home, and home is where you can do anything else that you want to do. But I just think it's just all too much. I used to think it was only me. We had 9 subjects a day at school, and got 9 homeworks. And I always thought like that was just cruel beyond belief. But it's interesting to see it happens to your children as well.
It's still happening.
Yeah. So Annette, tell me about your situation and your views on this.
Good morning. Yes, I think this is a tricky one because we're not talking about Victorian Britain or sending children up chimneys. We're talking making your bed, tidying your room, and just having some good organisational skills.
Yeah, and also not be seen almost as a punishment. It's been seen as it's a help to your parents or whoever's running the house. And what would you say?
I think it's a great help for people to do chores around the house. There's been several studies where they've seen that it's had beneficial well-being for children. And I think it's just about learning about time management, confidence, resilience. These are just basic life skills. So many people these days, teenagers, grow up and they don't have them, and then they're going off to university or whatever. I saw a really funny video actually of a mum who couldn't get her child to clean up, so she got black rice, sprinkled it around the room and told him it was mouse droppings. Now, I don't know if we need to go that far, but I do think it's good for children as a whole.
And Julie, don't you think that is important, instilling those life skills in children from a young age? And even if it's not life skills, that pride and wanting to help your parents, I mean, all of those are good things, are they not?
Yes, of course. And you know, I agree, you know, make your bed, of course. I wouldn't consider that a chore, though. I think it depends what you think a chore is. I don't think making a bed in the morning is a chore, and I certainly get my kids to do that. What I mean is that kind of, right, your job is to do X, Y, and Z on a Saturday, and you should be doing this. I just think that kind of allocating of household chores is cruel. Of course, they need to learn to do that later in life, and they will. I wasn't made to do chores as a child, and I know how to clean my house. And I also think by watching you do things, they can learn from that. But I think when your kids are allocated certain chores, I just think it's a bit cruel.
Yeah, OK, cruel is a very strong word. And Annette, tell me what you think of the word cruel and young people's awareness of the word cruel and what they should be doing in their home to help out their parents.
Oh, they should be doing absolutely everything, 12-hour shifts and not have a break. No, I think it's all about doing small little things. I think the word cruel is quite excessive, and I don't think it's very cruel to get them to do a few chores. Now, we have to look at it as well as some kind of gentle parenting often comes into this, and it's very prevalent today. And, you know, I must let my child decide, and discipline is like, oh gosh, that's a bit of a scary subject. But I think a little bit of discipline and a bit of a tough love is really good for them. And the other question is, should money come into it? Because that's maybe a whole other debate. Some people like to pay their children to do chores, and it teaches them about money as well.
Julie, we've got some instant reaction coming in from people watching at home. Stephen says, what a stupid question. Of course children should be taught to do chores. It's good for their future work ethic.
But see, that's the point. It's good for them as well as being good for the household.
And Jacqueline says a similar thing, Julie, saying kids need chores. Lazy kids become lazy adults. What do you make of that?
I don't think it's lazy if you don't do chores around the house. And also then it's the money thing that our other guest just said. I think if you actually encourage them to do things for money as well, I think that's even worse, because you're teaching them that, you know, give them £5. Where does that £5 go these days? It's completely different to maybe 20 years ago when £5 actually bought you something.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. And they nowadays they are so anti-mixing. You know, they're so duty to go out and mix with other people and interact like that and whatever it is. You know, maybe it's a bad thing then making them do chores that are just inside the house. They'd be better off working in the local newsagents or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, going to get a paid job maybe. Yeah. Well, ladies, thank you very much for your view this morning. Annette and Julie, thank you very much. Loads of you getting in touch this morning already. Jules says, I don't think there are many people that would expect children to wash their floors, etc., but keeping their bedrooms tidy and just clearing up after themselves is a very good place to start.
Tidy, you know, just simple things like that. But don't think it does any harm in teaching a skill around the house, whether you're paying them for it or not paying them for it. But it should be their duty. Surely it should be their duty to do that sort of thing. Very controversial. Keep the views coming in. We'll reflect those as the programme
Loads of them coming in. I can see it.
Loads
happening.
of them.
Keep them coming in.
The traffic, let's see if there's loads of that out there. Keep up to date. Remember, we're on digital, we're on radio, we're on TV, and here's your travel news.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M74 is restricted in both directions between Junction 11 and Junction 9 due to a contraflow system. Expect longer than usual journey times. On the A4060 between Pentrabac and the A4102 junction, there is an incident causing delays. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Is Liz Hurley really dating Billy Ray Cyrus? Who is Billy Ray Cyrus?
Miley Cyrus's dad, the country singer.
Yes. And he was the singer.
Achy Breaky Heart.
Oh, well, just
there you go.
Seen a speculative headline there. Still to come, we're going through the newspapers. Don Neeson, Chris Akabusi in just a moment.
Oh, no. Yes. The Hammers are in town. This is...
That's a football sign. That's the Hammers, yeah. We'll be back right after the break.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're very happy to welcome back into the studio Don Neeson and Chris Akabusi, and they've got views on a lot of the stories in the papers today, including front page of the Daily Express today, which features Prince Andrew. Why is that, Dawn?
Well, it is obviously all about the royals at Easter, going to church on Easter Sunday yesterday, and the fact that Prince Andrew and Fergie arrived with Princess Anne and her husband, Timothy Lawrence. And we've had so many stories about Prince Andrew and Charles not getting on, and Charles wants his brother out of the Royal Lodge, obviously, because of all the Epstein friendship allegations, etc., etc. So it is, a lot of people are saying they're surprised to see Andrew, and is he back in the royal fold? The two brothers are getting on. I always thought the two brothers got on in any case, because I thought Charles would keep Andrew in the fold because it's what the Queen would have wanted, to be honest with you. So I'm not that surprised, but I mean, the other story coming out of the royals going to church is the fact that Catherine and William weren't there.
Yes, so they're staying away, aren't they? They've been on a family holiday.
Yeah, on a family holiday.
So, I mean, it's a shame not to see the children, but, I mean, it is their holiday, isn't it?
Well, of
So
course
it's nice
it is,
for them to have their family time.
It's also good to see Charles and Camilla looking so well and healthy, and, it's just a family time altogether, isn't it? So I thought a nice picture. The Andrew thing, should he have been there? Probably not, but... I understand.
What I don't understand is Miss Ellie, they're saying, it's a shame not to see the children.
Oh, I love the children.
Couldn't care less.
No, don't be mean.
I'm not being mean. I'm not being mean. I don't open up the newspapers to say, where are those little royals about, and
I would.
What are they wearing?
I'd be looking for little Louis. Wouldn't we all? He's so cheeky.
Couldn't care less.
I love seeing the Wales children.
It genuinely bewilders me that people would want to see pictures of them.
Maybe it's a female thing. I love seeing the children.
They are cute. I mean,
they
to
are
be honest,
cute.
Louis in particular is particularly, cute and mischievous, as you say.
Yeah.
What's he going to do?
So it's nice to see them. What do you think, Chris? Do you miss the Wales children?
I can't say I miss them, but yeah, it's nice to see them. I mean, they're the future, king of Britain, and so I do like seeing posterity and recognising that one day when I'm not here, that young man's going to be on the throne. That's a nice idea.
Yeah.
See him growing up. I mean, I remember the king when he was a young lad, and that's actually something. When I see him now as a mature man, I remember when he was a young, swashbuckling, debonair, absolutely pretty boy.
Yeah.
Thin.
Yeah,
young.
Okay,
he was a handsome lad. He was a handsome. The king was a handsome young man.
Have a look at the pictures of him on the beach in Australia from back in the day.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. No, so I've grown up with the king, obviously, and so.
But they are the nation's family, like that, aren't they? You feel like you've grown up with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Trump loves them, and that's got to go in our favour as well. That old soft power.
OK, let's take a quick pause there. We go to the break, and we'll be back with more stories from the papers right after this. And if you're in search of some holiday sun, here are the places where it might well be.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. We'll see plenty of sunshine across the Mediterranean over the next few days, but also plenty of showers, some of those on the heavy side. Certainly on Tuesday, a few showers across the Canaries and Madeira, some more persistent spells of rain across parts of Spain, and then we head into a mixture of sunshine and scattered locally heavy, even thundery showers across central and eastern parts of the Med. As for the rest of the week, well, western spots will tend to brighten up, certainly some warm sunshine developing here, but plenty of showers continue further east.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Gynecological health, women's health as a whole, is one of the biggest societal challenges that we face currently.
What would you say, Josephine?
I've been massively failed over the 12 years that I've been dealing with endometriosis in many, many different ways. I wasn't believed to begin with. I was passed from pillar to post. There was a time where after an endometriosis surgery, I got sepsis. I wasn't believed and I was sent away from the hospital and the next day was taken back in quite a serious state. I think because I was young, but also because endometriosis just isn't taken seriously at all.
Is it because women go to the doctor and they say, I'm having really bad pains, and then what does the doctor say sometimes? Do they say, oh, well, everyone gets bad period pains, just have a bit of Nurofen? Is that what sometimes happens, Valentina?
Period and pelvic pain is a silent public health pandemic. It affects 9 out of 10 women. And research from the British Medical Journal tells us that we lose 9 to 12 productive days each year to period pain. But we can't really blame medical professionals, we can't blame GPs, we can't blame the NHS, because there isn't research that they can rely on. We have massively underfunded gynecological health as a whole. Currently, we spend only about 2.4% of our entire public health budget for the entirety of women's health. So that 2.4% is measly, and it has to stretch to cover breast cancer, maternity care, menopause, endometriosis. And because women were not allowed to take part in clinical trials up until 1993, we don't really know how most modern medications affect the female physiology versus the male physiology.
The People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're having a great conversation at this break. Care to share, Eamonn?
No.
No, couldn't actually broadcast any of it.
Right, TV quiz shows dawn.
Oh, God,
interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot on, and the type of shows I don't like are ones that go, what's the connection between a glass tumbler, a water jug, a TV program? I don't care. Just ask me a question.
Well, you're in trouble then, because TV quiz shows are abandoning basic general knowledge, like who won the World Cup in da-da-da-da-da, for those sort of, like, lateral thinking questions. Like, for example, what is the lowest number?
Why do you think they are abandoning them? Why do you think?
Well, because, according to experts, the trend comes from the enjoyable process of logic puzzles, which avoid the black and white nature of trivia. I don't even understand what that means, because I would never be any good in any quiz.
Well, there's not a right and wrong answer.
No, exactly, and it is lateral thinking. But you did Mastermind, didn't you? Even though you couldn't remember the name of the actual programme.
I did the black chair,
you did the black chair. The black chair programme.
So I like the idea of a subject, you know what you're talking about, get on with it. But this idea, I mean, I did one quiz show where the obvious answer is not the answer. You need to invert it and look for the least obvious answer.
Oh, I hate that.
No, I hate that.
See, there's that name, that programme that's given the right name, Pointless. There's a more pointless sort of programme. So here's a question. Now, just give me the least obvious answer to this. I don't see, what is the point of that?
Exactly. Or there's other cryptic ones where you've got to get two answers. make a conglomeration, and then make something out of that conglomeration.
This is the example of one of these lateral thinking quiz questions, right? What is the lowest number to have the same value as 10 times the number of letters in its name?
I'm going to sleep.
I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means.
No, me neither. That's why I'm never going to go on any of these shows.
No,
and who'd want to watch them as well, let alone take part?
No, but many people do watch them, and then they go, "Oh, you numpty! You didn't understand what was that question again?"
Yeah, exactly. Whatever.
Chris, what's the best car ever made? Best British car ever made?
Yeah, actually, I really like this. It's Mini Almighty. I didn't told you to go and blow the doors off.
Yeah.
No, and I love it. I mean,
I love a Mini Cooper.
Yeah, it really has come on as well. I mean, it's much bigger than it used to be back in my day when it first came out. But it's the real people's car, big room inside, manoeuvrable on the outside. I love what they've done with the coachwork. I love the different sort of paintwork that you can now get that expresses the individuality of the Mini. So, I do really agree. This car is iconic. It's got its place in history, but it's moved with the times. You can, the Cooper S was a great little car when it came out. Sporty, racy. It really is.
I don't like little cars.
No, but the Mini, though, have you seen the...
They're not little now, are they? They look like Range Rovers.
Yeah, they're massive now. You can get all sorts of different Minis. And that's the thing. You've got Minis for all seasons. You've got the sort of country estate Mini that you can get into now, which is
But
lovely.
I'd rather have a Range Rover for all seasons.
Oh,
I think a British car, Jaguar XJS.
Well, Jag is number 2 in the list.
Is it?
A classic Jag is number 2 in the list.
They look so good.
It's interesting that the two, number 1 and 2, are the classic cars, aren't they? The Mini, as you say, from...
they don't go out of style.
Italian Job.
I used to be obsessed with Mini Coopers. I had a remote control one when I was a child.
Yeah.
And then when I got my driving licence... when I got my lessons for my 17th birthday, I was like, has to be in a Mini Cooper, have to learn how to drive in a Mini Cooper. So there you go.
Yeah, my daughter, I bought her on her 18th birthday a little Mini because it meant, so she had a Mini Cooper. Not Mini Cooper, she had a Mini.
You'll not get a Mini Cooper at 17. The insurance would...
not Mini Cooper, she had a Mini. She had a basic Mini, a 1.8 Mini. But it was a bit... Well, she did loads of miles in that car as well, up and down to see Tom, who's now her husband. Up and down to see Tom.
Nice
He loved me.
In her Mini.
In her Mini, exactly.
That's nice.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, great car.
Austin used to make a car that was a wedge shape called the Austin Princess.
Oh, OK, yeah.
And
That's an old man's car.
Ford Granada.
Oh, yeah.
The reason I wanted a Ford Granada was the Sweeney.
Oh, yeah.
That was in the opening titles. And then the Capri and the Professionals.
Oh, absolutely. I had one of those. I had a Ford Capri 2.8 fuel injection, like...
Oh, you boy racer.
Yeah, absolutely. Used to love that thing.
But I'll tell you, I always wanted a Capri, never got round to it. Did I miss out?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's one of those cars you need to have had.
I was thinking of buying one recently.
Oh. No, you wouldn't be any good anymore. No. Because now you'd realise how bare it was inside.
Yeah.
You just bought the engine. You had to put this beautiful engine.
A Ford not brought out a reworking of it, a new version of the Capri.
Yeah, but it's nowhere near like the Capri. It looks like a much smaller car than the Capri that I remember.
Wow.
So it's not sensible.
Well, guys, thanks very much indeed. Your cars have arrived, and off you go at this stage. Pleasure talking to you both today. Thank you both very much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, both of you. Let us know what you make of any of the stories that we've been talking about today. gbnews.com/you'll say. Let's get a check on the weather now on your Easter Bank Holiday Monday with Marco.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see outbreaks of rain working their way northeastwards across the UK as we go through the day. Some brighter skies developing towards the south and west, but that will spark off some heavy, locally even thundery showers. So we'll start Monday with some brightness towards the far north and east of the UK, but notice this band of rain sitting across some southern and western spots. That will gradually push its way northeastwards into many areas as we go through the day. Notice skies start to brighten towards the south and west, but here we could see a few heavy, potentially thundery showers starting to break out, with drier conditions moving in across the far southwest later. In the sunshine, temperatures not doing too badly, up to 16, locally 17 Celsius, which is a few degrees above the seasonal average. So to end the day then on Monday, we'll still hold on to some bright weather towards the far north-east of Scotland, but elsewhere across the country, a rather cloudy end of the day with some outbreaks of showery rain. Across Northern Ireland, it's a brighter picture, but here a scattering of locally heavy, even thundery showers is possible, and certainly a mix of sunshine and showers as we head into North Wales and Midlands and the south-east of England, with the driest conditions, the brightest conditions to end the afternoon across South Wales and the southwest of England. That band of rain will continue to move north and northeastwards across the UK as we go into the overnight period, sitting across the northeast of Scotland into the early hours of Tuesday. Elsewhere, it's a much drier picture, plenty of clear weather around, and because of the clear skies and fairly light winds, it will turn quite chilly by Tuesday morning. In fact, we could see a frost in some rural spots by Tuesday itself. As for Tuesday, well, rain continues to affect the far northeast of Scotland on and off through the day. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshines on the cards after that chilly start. 1 or 2 showers breaking out, and there's some more persistent rain starting to move in across the far west of the UK as we head into the second stage of the afternoon. Temperatures are still doing quite well in the sunshine. In the afternoon, we'll peak at around 16 or 17 Celsius. 17 in the southeast is 63 in Fahrenheit, and again, a few degrees above the seasonal average. That's pretty much it. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M74 is experiencing restrictions in both directions between Junction 11 and Junction 9 due to a contraflow system. Longer journey times are expected. Avoid the M66 southbound exit at Junction 4 for the M60 as congestion is causing delays in normal travel times. On the A628 westbound, between the junctions with the A6024 and the A57, drivers face a 10-minute delay. In Greater London, the M4 spur southbound between Junction 4 and Junction 4A is experiencing a 15-minute delay against typical traffic. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there. Pope Francis, the head of the Roman Catholic Church, the Bishop of Rome, has died. He was the first pope from both the Western Hemisphere and South America, ascending to the papacy in 2013 as the figurehead of the world's 1.3 billion Roman Catholics.
Well, Cameron Walker takes a look back on the life of an extraordinary man.
March 2013, and Jorge Mario Bergoglio stood on the balcony of St. Peter's in Rome and said a simple Buonasera.
Fratelli e sorelle, grazie tante dell'accoglienza.
It was the start of a very different pontificate from his predecessor Benedict, who'd retired from his onerous duties. The former Archbishop of Buenos Aires was the first pope to take the name of Francis, the saint of the poor and of nature. He was, though, to usher in a time of richer relations with his worldwide congregation, both in style and substance. And that soon became evident as he made his presence in the Vatican more accessible. Gone were the grand papal apartments. He moved to the Casa Santa Marta to live simply with others. When he visited the headquarters of the EU, he did so in a battered car, and a more informal approach echoed the approach of John Paul II. The carnival is over, he declared, referring to the Vatican's cliques and factions. There was instead a whirling circus of high-profile media appearances.
I think we haven't got to waiting.
The Pope wanted to be part of the modern world. He was clearly spontaneous and open. When asked about homosexuality, he answered, "Who am I to judge?" But did indeed pass judgment publicly on those who had been abused.
Faccio un sentito appello per la lotta a tutto campo contro gli abusi di minori nel campo sessuale come in altri campi, da parte di tutte le autorità e delle singole persone, perché si tratta di crimini abominevoli che vanno cancellati dalla faccia della terra.
This was one of his earliest challenges, how to deal with the spectre of child abuse that had hung over the Catholic Church. His papacy became an opportunity to end decades of evasion and cover-ups. But traditionalists were fearful of his modernizing tendencies, affirming in their view, when he banned the Latin Mass, a form of liturgy popular with conservative Catholics.
Buon pranzo e arrivederci.
He went on to speak one then of Muslims as brothers, and was vocal in his support of migrants, even taking in some families to live in the Vatican itself. He also pitted himself against African Orthodox bishops on the issue of homosexuality, where Pope Francis went further than his predecessors. Although he never actually blessed the concept of gay marriage, he appeared to observe the rule of love above the rule of law. In a documentary for the Disney Plus channel, he also reflected that priests should be merciful towards women seeking an abortion. As the world was gripped by the COVID crisis, Francis publicly encouraged all Catholics to get vaccinated. He called this a small gesture of love in poverty, at a time when skepticism was sweeping parts of the globe. But the death toll was rising, especially across his home continent of South America. He felt the need for practical as well as spiritual leadership. With the invasion of Ukraine, the Vatican needed to deliver its own message in the war of words between Russia and the West.
Questa bandiera viene dalla guerra, proprio da quella città martoriata, Bucha.
Pope Francis denounced the wake of death and destruction, describing the war as a crime against God and humanity. He warned of a rising nuclear threat, echoing the views of millions when he said the world once more feels fear and anguish.
Per favore, non dimentichiamo di pregare per la martoriata Ucraina.
But despite this continued spiritual strength, his physical being was weakening. Knee problems left him using a wheelchair for long periods. In the summer of 2021, he underwent abdominal surgery, and then bronchitis hospitalized him in the spring of 2023. It was acknowledgement of his increasing frailty. He felt a malaise, he said, but I wasn't afraid. And he continued with his duties in all humility. He had admitted drafting a letter of resignation in the event of illness, making it impossible for him to continue with his duties as Benedict had done. But then, in a more recent interview, he reflected he had no real intention of taking that step. His ministry, he said, was his life.
Well, our thoughts and prayers for the Holy Father there. This is absolutely incredible because only yesterday we were all watching the Holy Father address the crowds there in St. Peter's Square. And the address, he said a few words, like literally a few words, and then it was taken over by a cardinal who was to say the same thing. But he didn't look in the, dying. And we've got a situation, was it 25 to 8 this morning, they found him in bed?
Yeah, I mean, that was highly anticipated, wasn't it, that appearance yesterday? As you say, he just managed to say,
he looked relatively
Happy Easter.
well.
He did look frail, didn't he? And as you say, the clergyman...
No, I didn't look as if he was going to die. But,
but I think it was highly anticipated. He wanted to be there to wish those people there in St. Peter's Square a happy Easter, and that he managed to do. But we have had this statement from the Vatican this morning saying, "Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father, Francis." At 7:35 a.m. this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and his church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage and universal love, especially in favour of the poorest and most marginalised. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis
so
to
that
the
was
infinite,
him yesterday we're looking at
merciful
there.
love of the one true God.
Yeah. So...
And these are the pictures of him just yesterday addressing the crowds in St. Peter's Square. He obviously had the strength to be able to do that. And the crowds were so delighted to see him. The first time he'd been seen publicly in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
You remember he went into hospital on Valentine's Day with a lung infection, led to pneumonia. And there were many days in that hospital stay where it was touch and go, where it looked as though we may lose the Holy Father.
So we've only known this news for 90 minutes or so. Let's get reaction now as it comes in. Stephen Kurt is a vicar of Christ Church, that's in New Malden in Surrey. Stephen, although we're saying it was expected, big shock, isn't it?
Tremendously sad news. I'm a member of the Church of England, but I have huge admiration for Pope Francis and for everything that he brought, not just for Roman Catholic Christians throughout the world, but for all Christians throughout the world. He was an utterly inspirational figure. And it was his generosity, his simplicity, and particularly his passion for social justice. And what's really remarkable is that he was someone who had a real change over that. He, in his younger days, was quite reactionary, and he was someone who went a real process of repentance over some of the views that he'd taken earlier on in life, and became an absolute passionate advocate of social justice, particularly when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires. So he wouldn't use all the official transport, he used public transport. He was an outspoken critic of social injustice. And I've got a quote which he said as Pope, which I think is wonderful. He said, "The poor are the treasure of the church. If we lose this vision of things, we will have a lukewarm, weak and mediocre church. Our true power must be service. We cannot adore God if our spirit does not include the needy." And he also said these words, "I prefer a church which is bruised, hurting and dirty because it's been out on the streets, rather than a church which is unhealthy from being confined and from clinging to its own security." So I think he was a wonderful man. And
being out on the streets, Stephen, was important to him. I mean, that idea that he would mix with ordinary people and the church was nothing if it didn't relate to those ordinary people.
Absolutely. Well, he drew his inspiration from the example showed by Jesus Christ, who was someone who completely interacted with those who were on the margins, gave a dignity and an importance to those who were vulnerable and largely ignored. And one of the reasons the reason why he took the title Pope Francis was because he wanted to recall Francis of Assisi. And he was, the first Pope from the Southern Hemisphere, from Argentina. He was the first Jesuit Pope. He was the first one to take the name St. Francis. But I think it is, as I say, this commitment to simplicity, and particularly this passion for social justice and being really outspoken about it, that will make him go down in history.
Stephen Kurt, thank you so much for your reflections on a remarkable man, a remarkable Pope there. Let's get the thoughts of former chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II, Dr. Gavin Ashenden. Good to see you this morning, Doctor, and such sad news this morning.
Yes, it's both a shock and expected at the same time. Sometimes things can be paradoxical. We knew he was very ill. We were glad he's recovered, and but whenever someone dies, it's always a shock, and particularly with somebody as significant as the office holder of a pope, it's a beginning of a new era, of course, and that in itself is seismic.
Was just that. There was to be a meeting with King Charles and Queen Camilla this week, which didn't happen. But he did meet the American Vice President J.D. Vance.
Yes, that's quite extraordinary. Not just because he's the Vice President, but because J.D. Vance represented. He was a convert to Catholicism. Yeah. He came from a political angle that wasn't the same as Cardinal Bergoglio's as he was, and there's no, we know that there isn't much, there wasn't a great deal of sympathy from the Vatican towards the new administration in America. So J.D. Vance was clearly trying to pay his respects and build as many bridges as he could in that meeting, and it's quite extraordinary that meeting must be one of the last ones the Pope ever had.
Extraordinary as well that Pope Francis was able to be in St. Peter's Square yesterday to wave to the crowds, to give that short message saying Happy Easter to my brothers and sisters. I mean, even giving thumbs up to the crowd. It is the most important feast in the Christian calendar, and he was able to be there just yesterday.
Yes, I think people will be very grateful for that, and it's a very fitting. I say send-off, it's not quite the right word, but I mean, it's very fitting that he should have been able to be there as Pope the day before he died.
Gavin, he wasn't typical of what we expect a Pope to be. He was very ordinary in so many ways and yet extraordinary. What did you make of the man?
Well, to be honest, this is a very difficult question. When someone dies, we want to speak as well of them as we can, hoping that people will speak as well of us. But on principle, the trouble is there are so many sides to Pope Francis, and not only to him as a man, but to what he represented in the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church is experiencing all the same tensions that the rest of our society is, and we know how difficult that is for everybody. He had some very attractive strengths. You've already heard people talk about his accessibility, his humanity, the fact he was down to earth. There are things about ecclesiastical flummery that no one likes, and he was really quite good at dispensing with them, sort of a man of the people, as you quite rightly say. But there are difficulties with his legacy, because he went after the traditional Latin Mass group in the church for no good reason at all, really. Particularly astonishing when it's turning out to be one of the most popular sources of renewal in the Catholic Church. One of his responsibilities as Pope, of any Pope, would be to cleanse the Church forever of sexual abuse. But he appears to have gone soft on the abusers and not held them accountable in public, despite the fact people begging him to do so, both personally and institutionally. And I'm afraid that may be one of the longest shadows across his pontificate, because there's no easy reason to explain why that should happen, and everybody agrees that it's just completely non-negotiable. There was a very difficult episode when he handed over the Catholics in China to the Chinese government and allowed them to appoint bishops, which is very, very un-Catholic and a pretty awful thing to do. And again, no one's understood why that was, but I'm afraid it will also cast a long shadow. So we have a complex man with virtues that people were very grateful for and some shadows that are as yet unexplained.
Would you care to hazard a guess or try to explain why you believe he did go soft on the abusers?
Do you know, it's so difficult, and I have no knowledge. But part of the problem is, it's not. I'd hate people to think that, as an occasional critic of the Pope, I would want to ever make any capital out of this. But one of the things that puzzled everybody is that there was an arch abuser of nuns, as it happened, dozens of them. It was ludicrous, and he was a Jesuit, and of course the Pope was the head of the Jesuits as well as being Pope, and therefore it came directly to his door, and really. There has been clamouring over the last 3 or 4 years for this execrable man to be held accountable. And the Pope wouldn't do it. And I think none of us know why, and we're very sorry about it.
Yeah, it was a struggle for him to try and restore credibility to the church, as you say, after these sexual abuse scandals. He did hold a summit in 2019 on child sex abuse by the clergy, but of course victims groups said this was too little, too late. And then of course we had the COVID pandemic, where that work wasn't able to continue. But he was always very vocal, wasn't he, on a wide range of issues that perhaps hadn't been touched upon before. He was outspoken on refugee crisis around the world and on climate change, and he was accepting of gay people as well, wasn't he?
We're all accepting of gay people. The whole church has always been accepting of gay people. The issue for us as Catholics is whether marriage is between a man and a woman for the intention of having children. And inevitably, this is a nuanced conversation with people sending out little semiotic codes and signals. The problem that we have is that many of the things for which the media and the secular society have praised Pope Francis were of a political nature, and we're all entitled to have our different views on the politics of climate change and net zero and immigration. These are, at one level, political things. At another level, nothing is not ethical or theological. But they were of a particular kind, and it wasn't shared by the rest of the church. And so that means that whilst they're very acceptable to secular society, since he wasn't expressing the mind of collective Christendom, it was a matter of division within the church. And so the price of buying secular support was creating division within the church. And many people would say that that's not the Pope's primary role.
He lived a very modest life as well. I mean, he was obviously head of the Catholic Church, but he actually he renounced these papal apartments in Rome and wanted to live in a little residence block, a modern building instead.
He did, and that's all credit to him. I thought that was a lovely gesture. We found it difficult when he tried to eject some of his enemies from their apartments as a matter of political payback. There are a couple of very, very unfortunate episodes where people who crossed him politically found themselves made homeless from their apartments. The trouble is, he's a complex man. I think he should be given every credit in the world for his public humility and the way in which I think he set out to restore the Catholic Church's common and human touch. But I'm really sorry to say that there's this other complex side to him, which is very difficult to reconcile with part of his public persona. And we've been simply driven to our knees to pray for him instead, which is the right response.
Yeah. His health was, failing, and it had been declining in recent years or so. But one would have thought that he was over the worst as regards his pneumonia.
It was an incredible comeback. I mean, one might say that if you have 1.4 billion Catholics all over the world praying for you, you'd hope to see some sign of recovery. We did see it, but of course we're not after immortality on the earth, particularly in frail bodies. So I don't think there's any great virtue in living a long time while suffering. And it was quite clear that the illness he had was awful. And frankly, I'm as one who loves my neighbour and who felt a great responsibility to pray for somebody with such a burden on him. I can only be glad that he's not having to suffer the consequences of the difficulties of breathing and ill health. Anyone who's struggled with pneumonia or a virus and had to woken up in the night having trouble to breathe knows how terrible it is, and I'm glad for him that that's over.
Terrible, absolutely ghastly. Gavin, from your point of view, we're looking down there at St. Peter's Square. Have you, I presume that you have been to the Vatican or that you've been able to visit?
Oh, yes, I've got a very nice picture of when I was an Anglican clergyman, of Pope Francis welcoming me formally in Vatican Square. When people think I've been too critical, I put it around sometimes to remind them. Yes, I've been there. It's a wonderful place, and of course, I mean, I'm sure people have seen the film. A lot of people have seen the film Conclave, and probably helpfully well brought up to date with the mechanics of what happens now when it comes to choosing a new successor to St. Peter on the church that Jesus founded. Yeah. It's a very exciting moment, and a great many things will hang on the kind of person that the cardinals choose.
Yeah.
So what happens next? I mean, it's interesting, Conclave will definitely go back up the charts again. That'll be in great demand. But how quickly will the whole process move from here?
Well, it's pretty quickly. It's a matter of weeks. It's a process. The Catholic Church is the oldest institution in the whole world. It's been doing this for nearly 2,000 years. So it's a well-oiled process. Sometimes it's done it better than others. But it will move fairly quickly. The cardinals will come together in Rome. They'll be brought into a conclave. They'll start casting their votes, and we will have a new successor within a short period of time.
And in the meantime, we'll have laying in state, won't we, Gavin, where we'll see some of those 1.4 billion Catholics from around the world descending on Rome to pay their respects.
Absolutely. And the respect is, there's a great deal of affection for Cardinal Bergoglio, but the depth of the respect is for the office and everything it represents on behalf of Jesus and the world, and particularly the hope that the Christian faith brings to the human condition, and which is what the office of Pope is intended to facilitate.
Well, Gavin Ashington, thank you very much indeed for your insight, your analysis, your tribute to the late Holy Father. We just want to break off, say goodbye to you and thank you as we recap on the Pope's life. But thank you very much indeed. If you're just tuning in, we can tell you that Pope Francis, the head of the Roman Catholic Church, the Bishop of Rome, has died.
He was the first pope from both the Western Hemisphere and South America, ascending to the papacy in 2013 as the figurehead of the world's 1.3 billion Catholics.
Cameron Walker now takes a look back on the life of this extraordinary man.
March 2013, and Jorge Mario Bergoglio stood on the balcony of St. Peter's in Rome and said a simple buonasera.
Fratelli e sorelle, grazie tante dell'accoglienza.
It was the start of a very different pontificate from his predecessor Benedict, who'd retired from his onerous duties. The former Archbishop of Buenos Aires was the first pope to take the name of Francis, the saint of the poor and of nature. He was, though, to usher in a time of richer relations with his worldwide congregation, both in style and substance. And that soon became evident as he made his presence in the Vatican more accessible. Gone were the grand papal apartments. He moved to the Casa Santa Marta to live simply with others. When he visited the headquarters of the EU, he did so in a battered car, and a more informal approach echoed the approach of John Paul II. The carnival is over, he declared, referring to the Vatican's cliques and factions. There was instead a whirling circus of high-profile media appearances.
I think we haven't get to waiting.
The Pope wanted to be part of the modern world. He was clearly spontaneous and open. When asked about homosexuality, he answered, "Who am I to judge?" But did indeed pass judgment publicly on those who had been abused.
Faccio un sentito appello per la lotta a tutto campo contro gli abusi di minori nel campo sessuale come in altri campi, da parte di tutte le autorità e delle singole persone, perché si tratta di crimini abominevoli che vanno cancellati dalla faccia della terra.
This was one of his earliest challenges, how to deal with the spectre of child abuse that had hung over the Catholic Church. His papacy became an opportunity to end decades of evasion and cover-ups. But traditionalists were fearful of his modernising tendencies, affirming in their view when he banned the Latin Mass, a form of liturgy popular with conservative Catholics.
Buon pranzo e arrivederci.
He went on to speak one then of Muslims as brothers, and was vocal in his support of migrants, even taking in some families to live in the Vatican itself. He also pitted himself against African Orthodox bishops on the issue of homosexuality, where Pope Francis went further than his predecessors. Although he never actually blessed the concept of gay marriage, he appeared to observe the rule of love above the rule of law. In a documentary for the Disney Plus channel, he also reflected that priests should be merciful towards women seeking an abortion. As the world was gripped by the COVID crisis, Francis publicly encouraged all Catholics to get vaccinated. He called this a small gesture of love in poverty, at a time when skepticism was sweeping parts of the globe, but the death toll was rising. Especially across his home continent of South America, he felt the need for practical as well as spiritual leadership. With the invasion of Ukraine, the Vatican needed to deliver its own message in the war of words between Russia and the West.
Questa bandiera viene dalla guerra, proprio da quella città martoriata, Bucha.
Pope Francis denounced the wake of death and destruction, describing the war as a crime against God and humanity. He warned of a rising nuclear threat, echoing the views of millions when he said the world once more feels fear and anguish.
Per favore, non dimentichiamo di pregare per la martoriata Ucraina.
But despite this continued spiritual strength, his physical being was weakening. Knee problems left him using a wheelchair for long periods. In the summer of 2021, he underwent abdominal surgery, and then bronchitis hospitalized him in the spring of 2023. It was acknowledgement of his increasing frailty. He felt a malaise, he said, but I wasn't afraid. And he continued with his duties in all humility. He had admitted drafting a letter of resignation in the event of illness, making it impossible for him to continue with his duties as Benedict had done. But then, in a more recent interview, he reflected he had no real intention of taking that step. His ministry, he said, was his life.
Pope Francis, who was found dead in his bed less than 2 hours ago, and that news just been announced 45 minutes ago. Let's now speak to Brendan Thompson. Brendan is director of the Catholic organisation Word on Fire. Brendan, big shock.
Yeah, really big shock. I was just on the media yesterday talking about what a joy it was to see Pope Francis, despite his, his health conditions, tenaciously, appearing in public. And I had to be told by a producer this morning. They said, "Have you heard the news?" And I said, "No, what?" That the Pope had died. And I struggled to find the, I think outlets are just coming to grips with that this has happened, the day after Easter Sunday. Yeah. So I know that for millions across the world, now we go into mourning. Yeah. We'll be praying for the Holy Father, and the Vatican will be preparing for what lies next.
In his brief address, very brief address yesterday, you could hear that he was struggling, that he was breathless at times there, but in no way did he look as ill and as grave as it turned out to be.
No, so we all know that he had been in hospital, Gemelli Hospital, for 5 weeks and had been close to death's door. But many regarded it as a miracle that he'd made it out. And in fact, on Maunday Thursday, so this Thursday just gone, he made 2 impromptu visits, one to the hospital to visit some of those doctors who had been looking after him, and then to visit some prisoners. And even though he had been meant to be being in 2 months convalescence after recovering from double pneumonia, he was he couldn't be kept down. Imagine trying to be one of the Pope's handlers. He self-willed to go and to see and to be driven around St. Peter's. So for those people who were able to see him on Easter Sunday, now that's become an unexpectedly poignant, memory forever.
And Brendan, it's a testament to the man, isn't it? And a testament to his faith that he was able, as you say, to be out with the people yesterday, meeting J.D. Vance just yesterday morning, and has passed away in the early hours of this morning, but working and serving till the very end.
Yes, and I was thinking before that in these 12 years of this pontificate, we've seen many different sides of the Pope, the joyful Pope, the moment maker, the controversialist, the media personality. But here, I think in these last days, where Christians had been celebrating the way of the cross, Jesus' suffering, he lived that in a particularly intense way. And in these last moments showed what it is like as a world leader. I mean, what other world leader would wear that vulnerability so close and so close to their sleeve, so openly, and showed us what service until the very last looks like.
How will he be remembered, Brendan? What will his legacy be?
I think there's going to be a lot of conversation about this in the next few days. I think there'll be some key priorities he'll be remembered particularly for his advocacy of migrants, for the environment, for somebody who, traveled a lot like previous popes. He'll be remembered for, his gift in communication and, some of these moments like in 2013 visiting Lampedusa and those migrants, or, some of these, let's say, set pieces. But for me, the memory that I'll remember most was during COVID, when he, for an empty St. Peter's, held up this Christian symbol, the Eucharist, the body of Christ, and blessed a kind of suffering world and gave this word of consolation. For me, that was iconic, and that will be my lasting memory of him.
What had still to be done, Brendan? What was ahead of him? Did he have a desire to still work on, to change things? And if so, what do you think those things would be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. In terms of work ethic, it puts me to shame. This is a guy who was, when he was close to death on his hospital bed, was still leading meetings. I'm not saying whether that's good or bad or not, but for someone who very much had a vision in mind. And one of his chief legacies, in fact, will also be what is called this kind of path of synodality, the synod on synodality. Like, what does governance within the church looks like? Governance has been a big key theme of Francis' pontificate, and he had made dates for different synodal meetings a few years down the line, so clearly indicating to people that this was still the direction of the travel, whether it was him or his successor.
And Brendan, he had his own way, didn't he, Pope Francis? He rejected the papal apartments. He opted instead for a very simple apartment nearby, and he had his own way with phone calls as well. He liked to just cold call people rather than have them written in the diary, known as the cold call Pope. So he had this warmth and openness about him. He wanted to be the people's Pope.
Yeah, so as somebody who's, I'm half Latin American, I noticed the kind of Latin American style in it, very kind of conversational, very informal. And, even when he was in hospital, close to death's door, he'd been calling the parish in Gaza, like one of the parish priest in Gaza, just to find out how they're doing every day. And he continued those daily calls on occasion, even when he was in hospital, or, around the time of his pontificate, when, he called to sort out his dry cleaning himself or close his room. And, so he very much remembered for some of these impromptu phone calls. Someone would say, they called and they said, it was the Pope.
Yeah, and it's a man who had a directness about him. He wanted things done. The fact that he would pick up the phone and speak to the people who were, in effect, on the front line.
That's right. And I think in lots of ways, Pope Francis was very much in charge. So I think this kind of, there was a joyful side of Pope Francis, but there was a directive side. He was a man who knew his own mind, had a vision for what he believed the church should be and the priorities of the church should be. And so wasn't afraid to, kind of lay down the law and say, this is the direction of travel.
Yeah, I would imagine that, most churches and chapels will be open today for people to pay their respects around the UK. And I think it's at moments like that you find out just how relevant or how popular the pontiff was. And as I say, there were still things for him to do. Do you regret that he didn't tour more? And, his health may have had something to do with that, but he was a man that would make a big impact in terms of his actual presence.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I regret selfishly is that we never had a papal visit to the UK from Pope Francis, but in many ways was, very, very close to, the UK. And I guess in a way, like, this is one of the most traveled popes in the world. Like, even when he was really ill, went to Mongolia, went to Jakarta, he'd gone to the ends of the earth, in imitation of Christ, take the gospel to the ends of the earth. And throughout these 13 years, if you just look at the laundry list of different places that he's visited, encounters that he's had, it's a real testimony of a very full and a very beautiful life.
Brendan, we've got live pictures here of St Peter's Square in the Vatican City, and already the number of people there has, I'd say, doubled in the past half an hour or so. We're going to see thousands of people descend on Rome, aren't we, in the coming days?
Yeah, gosh, I wouldn't want to be trying to get on an aeroplane right now in various places. The two airports in Rome are going to be very full. But I think that there are already a lot of people there for Easter. And of course, now in these next days, lots of the cardinals from around the world. There'll be 9 days of official mourning in the Vatican, and then there'll be what's called general congregations. So lots of these cardinals, and many Pope Francis appointed himself, I think 70 or 80% of the cardinals Pope Francis appointed himself from across the world, places that had never traditionally had cardinals. And so lots of them will be having conversations and a meeting for the first time as we get ready for what's next.
Brendan, if you would just hold fire there for us as we gauge some of the reaction that has been flooding in from leaders around the world, from the Dutch Prime Minister, first of all, Dick Schoof. He had this to say: Pope Francis was in every way a man of the people. The global Catholic community bids farewell to a leader who recognised the burning issues of our day and called attention to them.
And from Germany's Chancellor-in-Waiting Friedrich Merz has said Pope Francis will be remembered for his tireless commitment to the weakest members of society, to justice and reconciliation.
The President of Israel, Isaac Herzog: Pope Francis was a man of deep faith, peace and compassion.
Well, Brendan, Alejandro Thompson is still with us on the line. And Brendan, what do you make of those reflections of Pope Francis there from world leaders?
Well, this is a pope who will have met many of these world leaders in person. I mean, only, yesterday or the day before, he'd met with J.D. Vance for a very brief meeting. He'd met with Donald Trump. He'd met with King Charles when King Charles came for his recent state visit of Italy. He was wondering with whether their health conditions this was going to be possible, but he did. He'd met with Queen Elizabeth. The Pope is one of these people who meets more world leaders and more celebrities, than it's possible to fathom in one lifetime and stuff. So this is very much, part of what the Pope's thing. So I think for many world leaders, God willing, they'll be able to come to the funeral and be able to honour his legacy.
And Brendan, I think you said, did you meet him?
Yes, met him in passing. So as part of a crowd going for like a Wednesday audience. So he went by me at a speed, but it's still one of those moments that if you've met the Pope or he's driven past you at great speed, it's one of those moments you remember the rest of your life. You remember
that, of course you do. Now, what lies ahead and how quickly, at what pace will change happen?
Yeah, so as I said, we've got 9 days of official mourning, and this gives a chance for some of the funeral preparations. They will have had some preparations in gear, and then we'll have some of the meetings of the cardinals, which are called general congregations. So they'll be able to talk with one another, to meet with one another, to prepare. And then we go into, the bit that we all know, the kind of conclave. So this is where they stay in Casa Santa Marta, the apartments where Pope Francis has been living. And then at some point they will go into the Sistine Chapel. So they will go in for those various rounds of voting. We'll see white smoke for a pope or black smoke if it isn't. So this could last, and that how long is a piece of string? We don't know how long that conclave moment itself will last, but we're now in for it for at least a couple of weeks.
And Brenda, I know that this is breaking news to you, just like it is to us, and you'll have time to reflect in the upcoming days. But thinking of your journey with your faith, how has Pope Francis changed your faith, formed your faith during his papacy?
Well, I remember I wrote a letter and declared my undying love for my wife on the day that Pope Francis was elected. So I remember the day in February 2013 very well. And over these things, at Pope Francis, you should always take leadership, your leadership from the leadership of the church. And I think for discernment, for being able to read the signs of the times, like how do we live in these troubled times? What does it mean to meet people where they're at and lead them to where God wants them to be? What does it mean to care for the most weakest and the most vulnerable? I think these are many lessons that I'll reflect on in these coming days, will be the legacy of Francis in my own life.
It was an hour ago that Cardinal Kevin Farrell announced the death of the Pope from the Casa Santa Marta with these words. He said, "Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis. At 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and his church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage, and universal love." And it is amazing, actually, I think, Brendan, that we're talking less than an hour, 55 minutes ago, since he died.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing. It's what a strange way to start Easter. Today is the first after Easter Sunday. This is a day of, it should be a time of celebration. It was only yesterday that Pope Francis in his message said, the risen Christ is my hope. His defeated love has defeated vengeance, has defeated all of these things. So this is a man who's going to his eternal reward with that kind of knowledge and that security. They say that, important people die on significant days. So I think it will give great comfort to Pope Francis that he was able to die right at the start of these kind of Easter festivities.
Changed the church, hasn't he, with his simplicity? I mean, it has been controversial, the simple choices that he's made. We've spoken about his modest living. Do you think he's changed it for good? I mean, is it too soon to talk about what it will look like after Pope Francis?
Yeah, I think the church thinks in centuries, not years. So it's like a tapestry, isn't it? And each of the popes in their own way adds something to the tapestry. So you think there's this process of simplicity, or let's say modernization, if you want to put it like that, since the 60s. All the popes have had their different styles. So Benedict was more theologian, and John Paul II was more of a kind of like rock star. And Pope Francis is like very much like a pastor. People have seen different facets of the diamond. They help us to see something of the mystery. So while I don't think it kind of fundamentally changes, or changes in order to remain the same, I think he certainly will add his color and his own texture or teaching to help us to know more about the mystery of the church and the life of Christ. So he'll have definitely added to that.
Pope Benedict there, I mean, that was a big chapter in Pope Francis's time, wasn't it? I mean, I think it's about a decade where there were two popes living.
Yeah, and I think Benedict was really admirable. Like, imagine, kind of backseat driver, like having your predecessor there. So I think both Francis and Benedict handled that dynamic very well. That Benedict was, as he said he would be, very, very reticent, prayed for the Pope. And there was these moving moments where he, would come into the Vatican when he was still healthy and able to. But yeah, kind of unprecedented. There hadn't been a papal resignation in many centuries. And, Pope Francis was very kind and cordial when Pope Benedict died, and, kind of remember the celebration of the funeral a few years ago.
In the past few weeks about Pope Francis and whether he, like Pope Benedict with ill health, should have retired. But obviously, we now know that wasn't a choice that he had to make.
Yeah, so it's standard fare that popes write their letter of resignation. So all of the popes do it. And I think it just depends on the individual. So very much Benedict felt that, he didn't have the strength for that governance, and Pope Francis felt that he did. But generally speaking, the office of the Pope is one for life, given for life. And Pope Francis wanted, that Benedict had given a particular example, but also wanted to retain that sense of that this is something you don't just retire from, being a priest or being a bishop or being a pope, that it's something for life.
Where did he get his popularity from, Brendan? He was only elected a cardinal 24 years ago, and then, incredibly, how many years later, 10, 12 years later, he became the Pope.
Yeah, so many people, you don't know what to do with this kind of gossip, but some people say that, he was he was a contender but too young in the first conclave that elected Benedict. And So I think in very much an unknown. He was known in Buenos Aires. You know, there are photos of him where he'd just get the bus in an kind of ordinary clerical clothes, you know, even as a cardinal and stuff. So it must have been in these meetings of the cardinals. So what's happening, you know, will be happening in the next few weeks, where these cardinals get to know each other and they hear each other give different speeches. So it gives them an indication of, you know, who might be the right person to carry on the legacy of the last pope, and also to kind of push into new frontiers of governance and the spiritual life of the church.
Brendan, have you been able to watch the Academy Award nominated film, The Conclave? Have you been able to see any of that?
No, my boss, Bishop Barron, he basically said that it was not worth watching, so I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't quite say that. He said, you know, beautiful cinematography, but a little bit, you know, kind of the ending is, you know. So I know the ending, so I won't give any spoilers away. But yeah, it's that kind of. There is obviously always going to be a political dimension, but these films never understand the spiritual dynamics. That the spiritual dynamics really matter. They really mean something to people, and so they're always underplayed in these depictions.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, emphasizing, I suppose, how popular that is going to be. Goodness me, you talk about a timely reminder and the topicality of something. I mean, that really is going to provoke a lot of interest.
Yeah, I mean, these things are great for theatre. People will enjoy in the next few days the kind of the pageantry. The Vatican does this really well, and I believe that that's, you know, God gives us these visible things to help us to access these invisible truths that we're talking about. And I went, no tradition, you know, I'd say the Catholic Church does this amazingly well. So we're going to see this, you know, this beautiful spiritual theatre over the next few weeks of, you know, how we process the death of something, how we process, you know, transitions in leadership and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think, yeah, people's experience will be framed by these kind of cinematic depictions.
And how do you personally process what you saw yesterday with him addressing, albeit brief, his address to St. Peter's Square, and then the news that we've got today? Because that, to me, that's the bit that I can't really fathom, because we saw him yesterday. Yes, he was weak. Yes, his voice felt it couldn't stand up to much tension. That's why his speech was read by another cardinal. But he didn't look as if he was at death's door, did he?
No, he looked as he's looked for, you know, the last few weeks since he's got out of hospital. And I guess it just shows you the kind of unpredictability and the fragility of life. So I think for me, it will hit me at different moments. Look, this is my spiritual father. And for many Christians, and particularly Catholics, spiritual sons and daughters, this will hit, and maybe not hit in an expected way. I mean, I just looked at, when me and my wife got married, we have this marriage blessing that's from Pope Francis. So I passed his picture, you know, tens of times in any given day, and been seeing it today. I've got pictures in every Catholic church. There'll be a picture of the Pope there. So, you know, there's this spiritual connection. We all pray for him every single day that Mass is celebrated. You pray for the Pope and stuff. So there's intense connection. So the grief will be different to, say, like an immediate loved one, but no less profound.
Yeah. And it is such a profound time for the Catholic Church as well, such a poignant year, Brendan. I mean, we've just had the most important feast. We've just had Easter. And, of course, it's the Catholic Jubilee year as well, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So I went to Rome recently, and you see tens of thousands of pilgrims, you know, every day making their way into St. Peter's, and many more pilgrims as a result of this. So to die just on the day of Easter, but in this Jubilee year, you know, is incredibly profound. And I know that me and my family are going to Rome later on this year as well to make our own pilgrimage. So yeah, so I think this just adds a particular poignancy, because there are lots of dates in the calendar for different Jubilee events throughout the year that will be the first events for the new Pope.
Brendan, we'll let you go, or we could be talking to you all day. There's so many people talking to you. But I just wanted, I mean, you represent Word on Fire, and I just wonder, how on fire will that word be about Francis?
Yeah, so he was the leader of our church. And so I think sometimes we find that fire more in times of suffering than we do. We see this with the mystery of the cross that we've just celebrated, right? Jesus didn't die on the cross so that we wouldn't have to suffer, but we would know how to suffer. So I think particularly the afterglow of this witness that Francis has given us in these last days will, I think, burn a fire in people. I remember a friend of mine who, when John Paul II died, his dad converted and said there was just something about that moment that unlocked something spiritually for him. So I believe we're at a time of spiritual revival where we're seeing an increase in church attendance and mass attendance. And so I believe that something of this will unlock some new graces for people. More people will, open up spiritual dimensions of themselves and maybe start going to church again. That's my prayer.
The timing is incredible with this being Easter, and here we are on Easter Monday. Do you think that will add to the whole significance of all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it will. It will be a strange twinge of sadness in what should be a kind of, the risen joy. But, those who suffer know how to smile in a particular way. Joy is much deeper than happiness. So I think in this Easter in particular, I think I'm always going to remember this Easter in a particular way. We're going to have to learn a kind of deeper joy of the risen Christ. The Christ who has defeated death by mourning the death of our spiritual father in Rome.
Brendan, stay with us. I just want to bring you these latest tributes that coming in now from world leaders. The French President Emmanuel Macron was one of the first to pay tribute to Pope Francis, calling him a man of humility on the side of the most vulnerable and the most fragile. From Buenos Aires to Rome, Pope Francis wanted the Church to bring joy and hope to the poorest. May it unite people with each other and with nature. May this hope continually revive beyond him. My wife and I send our thoughts to all Catholics and to the grieving world.
The Italian Prime Minister, Giorgio Meloni, said the Pope's death makes us deeply sad. He was a great man, a great shepherd. Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church, the Bishop of Rome, has died. Just to emphasise that to you, he was the first pope from both the Western Hemisphere and South America, ascending to the papacy in 2013. So we're taking lots of reaction from people as it comes in this morning.
And Brendan Alejandro Thompson is still with us. How are you reacting, Brendan, to those tributes paid there from President Emmanuel Macron and Giorgia Meloni?
Well, of course, we all remember the reopening of Notre Dame. So it was during the pontificate of Francis that Notre Dame burned, and then this kind of glorious moment where the people were so spiritually affected, and you think there's something about the burning of this building. France was called the elder daughter of the Church. And it's been suffering in many years, but there's a great revival going on in Catholic France as well. So I think it's very fitting that Emmanuel Macron, who will have seen Pope Francis as well as Meloni at the Pope addressing at various kind of European gatherings. So European leaders, I think in particular, will feel this. The Pope on their doorstep as the key religious leader that many people around the world know. Even if they don't know many religious leaders, many people will know the Pope. So yeah, good to see these messages coming in.
And hasn't he about politics around the globe? Those world leaders will be aware of his views on many of the issues that they are working on. I mean, he's been critical of the Trump administration, and he was meeting J.D. Vance yesterday. He was a very political pope, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I mean, Catholicism has never struggled with, speaking into politics. It doesn't tell politicians how to do their jobs, but there are moral truth claims, and it can shed light onto the application of ethics and law and morality. So all of these world leaders will find bits that they can agree with. Any world leader will agree with bits. Meloni and Macron and Trump, they're all different parts of the political spectrum, and will agree with some things the Church and the Pope says and disagree with other bits. But that's part of the beauty of what I'd call the Catholic social tradition teaching, that it's neither left nor right, that it has little bits that will, nod to some direction and nod to other directions. So I think the Vatican always tries to do this, and with its meeting with, J.D. Vance, the Cardinal Parolin, who was the Secretary of State, had a meeting with J.D. Vance. It was said to be very cordial, but there will have been some tensions underneath it.
Brendan, where would you nod? What direction would you nod in? For instance, if I could ask you, there he is with J.D. Vance there, we're looking at on screen. Was he a great pope?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's great in the sense of long time, 12 years of his pontificate. And I must admit, for many times, there are things that he prioritized that I wouldn't have necessarily thought about. You know, in the previous pontificate, in Pope Benedict, who was very much an academic, and it was when I was flowering in my faith, and so I resonated with a lot of that, and that helped to shape a lot. But I think Pope Francis has in many ways kind of deepened or extended that in the kind of, you know, in an ethic of love and example and stuff. So I think, yeah, there are lots of many great moments of Pope Francis's pontificate that I'm going to treasure.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for your contributions today. We're getting reaction all the time. Brendan Thompson there is from the Catholic publication World on Fire. Brendan, we'll thank you. Thank you very much indeed for all that you contributed to us today. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Where are you today, Brendan?
Beaming in from Banbury in Oxfordshire, and can I just wish a very happy Easter to you both, Ellie and Eamonn, and to all of your watchers, listeners and watchers.
Yeah, very many thanks for that, because we all have to remember that's still the feast, that's still what we're celebrating, and this is the most important date in the Catholic Church's calendar all year, and the Pope has passed away this morning, just 2 hours ago. So there we go. Brendan Thompson, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brendan. And in that sense, Eamonn, I mean, it's timely, is it not, for the Pope to have had that Easter service yesterday, to be in St. Peter's Square, to be with those Catholics from all around the globe. I mean, he was blessing people yesterday, blessing babies that were brought to him. He was able to give that Easter message. And then he went back to the Father this morning.
Well, I think the thing I'll always remember about this Pope is his humility. There was a lack of grandness associated with him. There was a great ordinariness with him. And he was the first Jesuit Pope that there's been, the first Pope from the Americas and the Southern Hemisphere. He was the first Pope raised outside of Europe since the 8th century. He was ordained in 1969 and he became Archbishop of Buenos Aires in 1998. Only created a cardinal 24 years ago by Pope John Paul II. And then following the resignation of Pope Benedict in 2013, he was then elected. So 12 years after being made a cardinal, he was then elected as the successor to Pope Benedict on the 13th of March 2013.
And then, of course, he had nearly a decade until Benedict died in 2022, where there were 2 popes living in the Vatican, 2 popes wearing white. So what a remarkable chapter that was in the Catholic Church's history.
His history is incredible too.
It is.
He left Italy, his family left Italy. 1929 was the year, and that was to escape the whole fascist rule of Benito Mussolini back then. And as you were saying earlier, you were watching how St. Peter's Square is filling up. And when we started talking about this, which was less than an hour ago, the square was empty. And there you have it.
And now it's filling, as we can see all those people heading in now, filing into Vatican City, wanting to pay their respects to Pope Francis. And there are now 9 official days of mourning where the Pope will be lying in state, and Catholics from around the world, 1.4 billion of them around the world.
I don't
Many
know what
of them
actually
making their way to Rome.
Happens there. I mean, they can only gather and console themselves. I mean, I'm not sure there's anything formal. There may be a mass or something said or conducted before all of this teaches to an end.
Well, let's just remind you of that statement that we got this morning. This is from the Vatican. Dearest brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow, I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis. At 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and of his Church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage and universal love, usually in favour of the poorest and the most marginalised. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite, merciful love of the one and true God.
There'll be, great debate what his legacy will be and what he represented and who he represented. But the Conservatives, when he was, installed as Pope, it wasn't too sure. They thought that he wasn't conservative enough and that he wouldn't work out from that point of view. But one anonymous memo condemned Francis's papacy as a catastrophe. So it was a Conservative manifesto of the qualities Conservatives will want in any Pope that follows, of course. The time is quickly approaching 10 o'clock, and we do want to say to you that Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church, the Bishop of Rome, has died. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning, and we were able to bring that news to you. Now we cross to Charlie and Emily, who will continue live coverage on this, the passing of Pope Francis.
Good morning, this is Emily Carver. This is Britain's Newsroom.
Now, recapping the breaking news this morning, the head of the Catholic Church, the Bishop of Rome, has died. And joining us now is Simon Caldwell, the Associate Editor of the Catholic Herald. And could we get your reaction, please, Simon, to the events this morning?
Yes, it's very sad when we lose any pope, and of course